listening to the Mantic Universe podcast. So many universes, so little time.
Dear listener, you are listening to the Mantic Universe podcast. I'm Chris, and as ever, I'm joined by my good friend Clem.
Hi, everybody. Long time no see.
And our good friend Gerry. Hello, Gerry. How are you, kind sir?
I'm getting a real case of deja vu, and I can't understand why. But other than that, I'm great.
I think it's probably head trauma, you know?
That would make sense.
Yes. I tell you what the listener always enjoys. It's in-jokes that they're not in on. So, dear listener, yes, we had technical issues, so we've gone back. We've done all this before, so but we're just as, if anything, this time is working better than the first time, guys. You know, we haven't lost any enthusiasm. It's Sunday night. We're all sick, but we're as excited as ever to talk all things Mantic. Guys, so we don't have proper notes this month, despite the massive gap since the last episode. So let's try the welcoming on the menu. So we're doing our intro. We're going to talk news. My goodness, is there a lot of news this month, guys? We're going to talk Warpath. We've got something to say. So cling to that, dear listener. Oh, and by the way, dear listener, just while I remember, I have actually put it out on the Discord and the Facebook. We did have some plans for Warpath, but some plans have actually fallen through. So if there's anyone out there who's interested in making Dead Zone, Firefight, Warpath, epic scale content for us, do reach out to the podcast and we'd be delighted to have you on board. Perfect. And then after that little plug, we're going to talk Panathor. There may be some things to say about that. And our topic of the month has to be Kings of War 4th edition. We've then got a few listener questions, and we didn't do any reading, so we're going to have to trust Wiki Dave to do the panel lore for this month on a separate episode. And there we go, guys. How are we feeling?
Great. It's been a long time, right?
It has, actually. I'm looking forward to this one. It has been a while for various different reasons. It's, life tends to get in the way a little bit. It just takes... I think, Clem, we were going to record a couple of weeks ago, and then I was just basically feeling pretty rubbish, and it just sort of... when you fall out of the habit, it's hard to get it back on the slate. So I'm really, really glad we've got the three of us together for some monthly. And guys, one thing to mention, at Clash of Kings... I was playing against a lovely chap, absolutely delightful guy with his Turtle Salamanders army. Brilliant game. It was game 6. And he just casually mentioned he loves when we wang on about Laserdiscs and, all of our weird rambles. And it was absolutely lovely. And I didn't even know that he was a listener of the podcast. And then he just mentioned that. And it's like, thank you so much. And possibly he was trying to distract me during the game, but it was a very nice distraction. But for when it comes to feedback on the pod, by far and away the most feedback is 50% of people saying it's a Mantic podcast, why are you talking about Laserdiscs? And then 50% of people saying, I love all the weird rambles about Laserdiscs and whatever it is, John Carpenter films, etc. So it's a real mixed bag. So, it's our podcast. We can talk about what we like. If people want to only talk about Mantic, they can do their own podcast, guys. So there we go.
I mean, yeah, we would suck if we were talking only about Mantic, right? So we need to suck talking about other stuff as well. That's what the podcast is about.
Just to show how much we full-rounded suck. Exactly right.
Spread the suck.
Perfect. Podcast title right there. There we go. Comic gold. Okay, spread the suck. Brilliant. Super. I don't know where to go from there. So, guys...
I guess it's the news.
And now it's time for the Mantic news.
Guys, there's obviously a lot of news. Let's start with mentioning the Warpath Kickstarter has arrived. That's
In
good.
most places, yes, I receive my stuff. You receive your stuff. I think not everybody in the Berlin group, as of the time of recording, has received their stuff, but most of them. And I've seen already also on social media people in the US have started to receive Wave 2 stuff, so stuff that didn't make it before, was it late August for the tariff stuff? And Mantic started to ship that, so I guess they're basically done packing and shipping most of the stuff for Europe at this point. So yeah, absolutely.
I think there was some mention that people that ordered dice, the different faction dice, will be last to get their stuff. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but yes, I hope everyone's got their stuff that wants it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a bunch of pictures of people who have assembled everything already and painted everything, and it looks great. Like, it's obviously quick paint jobs and so on, but it already looks really, really nice. So it's exciting.
They do look stunning, don't they, Clem? I've got 2 ideas for my Forge Fathers. One is obviously just to paint them in the same style, the orange that's the classic, and that's what I've got my 28mm stuff done in. But the other thing I was thinking is, maybe I could paint them like stormtroopers. How cool would that look?
That'd be pretty neat. Yeah, no, I like it. I mean, 10mm, you want to paint slightly differently. I mean, you can keep a similar color scheme, but you really, really want to, accentuate contrasts and make the units readable, because the dudes are really tiny. And so you need to have a way to differentiate. Okay, these ones are the Brockers. These ones are the standard steel warriors, normal guys. These ones are the heavier ones. And you really need a paint job that, accentuates contrast and let you identify the models. Just quick digression.
When I was over at Clash of Kings and I went on the lovely Warlord tour, I get on really well with the 2 pro painters they have there. And they gave a really, really good bit of advice. And that was, if you want to take photos of your models, make sure that the highlights are much higher than you think you need, because it really makes a difference on the photos. So, and I was wondering, actually, might this be one of the issues Mantic have with their photography? Because when you see that, the age-old problem Mantic have is you see their pro-painted models in the case and you go, wow, they look great. Then you look at the picture on the box and you go, that's underwhelming. And I just wonder, perhaps they're just not highlighting them up enough for photography.
That's an interesting thought, because definitely I've seen some of the box art models in person at Mantic HQ, and they are amazing. That they really, really look nice.
Yeah, they do, don't they? Yes.
No question, they're mind-blowingly good. And you look at the pictures on the box art, on the website or on the box, it's like, it's fine, So maybe you're onto something.
Yeah,
who knows?
Yeah. You should. I mean, we talked about this before many times, but you should never be pleasantly surprised at how good a box of models are. Right? If you are, the company is doing something wrong. You shouldn't open them up and go, "Oh, they're not that bad." Because I mean, we're Mantic fanboys, so I buy. Let's be honest, Basilean models that I'm underwhelmed by, and you open them up and go, They're not that bad. They're not amazing, but they're not that bad. They look better than the box made me believe.
Yeah, no, they're more pleasant to assemble and paint and then play with after. Anyway.
You're just whelmed. You're not overwhelmed. You're not underwhelmed. You're whelmed. Whelmed by Basilea.
I'm exactly whelmed. Exactly, Jerry. But having said that, though, I was very underwhelmed by what I saw with Conflict 47. And actually, I told this Clem and Mark, what are Warlord doing with this? I didn't get it. And then I saw their models and went, oh, okay, they're really nice. And actually, looking at kind of like the army deals, I was thinking, this is really expensive. This looks like a bad deal. And then you actually get the 2-player box set, or you see it and you go, oh, okay, this is actually a fantastic deal. It's just, it doesn't. The pictures don't do it justice. Yeah, the models are amazing, and to the point where, the Americans, factions like the Americans, I normally find quite dull. They're kind of plain cheese sandwich type situation without the weird stuff. But actually, the American, they're called Firefly Infantry. They've got these jetpack things. the poses are amazing. They actually made boring infantry look super cool, and the mechs are amazing too. So apologies, dear listener. I will mention Warlord a few times during the making of this pod. And also, Clem, we talked about small scale. Warlord actually had a sprue sale, and I accidentally ordered a Carthaginian tiny army because they had war elephants. So that's a thing. So that
sounds cool.
Kind of shame. Yeah, and the models look stunning. I mean, like really fantastic. I'll have to show you. Actually, they're really, really impressive. Damn you, Warlord, and your half-price sprue sales. But I was so impressed. So I guess we're going to try Hail Caesar, but it doesn't matter really. It's just nice to have a cool army.
I mean, it's good to try all sorts of games. I haven't tried Hail Caesar, but from what I understand, it's kind of War Master second edition, or like a logical evolution from War Master. And yeah, I think it's worth trying out. And then you can go back to 4th edition and be like, oh no, that I can actually play without a brain injury or something.
You know me, Clem. Yes. But okay. Anyway, right. Sorry, dear listener. Let's get back to Mantic news then. So good news on the Warpath stuff. Come on, let's talk about it. 4th edition, Zerkali Empire. Clem, we weren't too far away. We thought kind of Beastmen, and it sort of is Beastmen, but it's a big thing. It's Beastmen, it's monks. There's obviously a huge Chinese influence. There's a huge sort of, what would you say? It's almost like a video game, style, I think, to a lot of it. Cathay, you've got to say a little bit too. I mean, I can't imagine Mantic knew that GW were making a Cathay army. I'd be very surprised if the two things are, connected or they knew about each other. But some of the dogmen I'm not that impressed by, but I think as a release, and I've seen a couple of people saying, the cannons, the artillery aren't that impressive for how much money they're asking for. But I think overall, for me, it's just a massive yes. I mean, I want all of this. I want Buddhist monks. I want dogmen massively. This is just terrific as far as I'm concerned. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with you. So first of all, I want to claim that we were 100% right, because I think we said Beastmen kind of coming from the east, blah, blah, blah. To me, it's like 100% success in predicting what came out.
Yeah, we'll go back and edit the last pod, Clem, so it sounds like, we mentioned China.
Yeah, I'll fight anyone who says we were wrong or didn't really foresee it. So in general, I'm not a big samurai and Chinese influence guy, but the models that they've put out are really nice. Some of them I prefer to others, like some of the actual dog samurais I think look pretty cool. Like the paint job is nice and the models kick ass. Interestingly, I think also that the Trident Realm stuff that they put out is really, really good. Like, I think if they had, half of the frogs and half, either the Depth Horrors or the Placos back when they did the first wave of Trident Realm and the second half now, probably things would have gone better sales-wise, because my impression is that we'll sell a lot more of the Trident Realm.
This is what we wanted. Yeah, it was, I'll be honest, it was bitterly disappointing what they did last year, and this is exactly what we wanted to see. It's fantastic, really terrific looking placoderm models, superb looking depth horror models, really, really nice, full of character, and it fits really well with the Zerkali Empire models as well. They're all chock full of character. I think my absolute favourite model for the Zerkali Empire is the what's going to be, I think it's called a Prowler, something like that. It's going to be the hero from the Champions box set, I think, and it's this kind of red dog fox thing, like a fox man, with a bow and a samurai sword, and then a little
it looks
dragon.
pretty cool,
and it's just so cool, and it's so full of character, and I love what they're doing. It really feels it really feels like Kings of War is finding its own style with each release, and it's really doubling down on that. And I really, really like that. And it's, you could proxy model stuff with the Zarkali army, but why would you want to? The models are amazing. Like, they're really, really good. So, if you compare it even to the Twilight Kin release, which I thought at the time was decent, I think this is way better, way better. I was impressed by the Trident Realm release. The Twilight Kin release. I thought that was good for the time. But if you put it up next to this, I think it's just such an improvement. It's really staggering, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm curious to hear what Gerry has to say about it. But for me, it's also the fact it's a full range. I think even more so than the Twilight Kin. I made the same mistake. Like from day one, you have a good selection of everything. And I think they on that front they've done a really impressive job with it.
I'm very excited by it. The only one I'm kind of humming and hawing over is the dual kit for the hunters / whatever they are, berserker types.
The big dogmen guys, the quite big ones. The large infantry one or something?
I think they're all similar in weird sizing. But because it's a dual kit, they've obviously had to do something so that you've got the sort of bowman type and then you've got your berserkers. And I think it's the look around their, I'm going to say cowl on the bowman just looks odd. And then they've got sort of over-accentuated big hairy humps on the berserker types. I'll find the actual name so I'm not just screaming berserker types, because that's probably sensible, I would think. But with everything else having such a strong Eastern feel to them, the Planestalkers and the Wildfangs are their actual names. They don't look particularly Eastern. The Stalkers look like furry Robin Hood cosplayers, and then the Berserkers, a lot of people are going to get a lot of use out of those in Forces of Nature armies if werewolves are still in there.
Yeah, quite right, Gerry.
They're very tribal werewolves, but nothing about either of those models screams Eastern influence compared to all of the other models.
I like the bow version. It's the other one. That's the model I'm not mad on. I think it's just okay. I think the poses look a little bit derpy. I think it's okay, but I think you're right. This doesn't really fit necessarily with the rest of the range potentially.
Yeah.
But how you paint them will go a long way.
True, but I think even with some of the aesthetics on it, the Zarkali Empire, from what little we've seen so far, is a massive empire that's subsumed neighboring kingdoms and principalities and like, and brought in a whole slew of different types of races under a sort of a broad empire. And if you're going to have some Oriental style bowmen or whatever in there, and you want them to be a bit different from the standard Zarkali warriors, I mean, go Hun or something like that. That they still have a very Eastern aesthetic, but look distinctly different from Imperial Chinese.
There were a lot of potential, and Chinese army at the time had a lot of bowmen, so there was a lot of potential. I like how the models look. Actually, I like the bowman models, but I totally get what you're saying, Gerry. It doesn't scream Eastern theme, and who knows? Maybe Mantic thought, but if we do them like this, then there'll be people from other armies who play other armies that will buy these kits. I'd like to think that isn't a decision Mantic make, but if I'm honest, I think it probably is something they still have to do. And the dogs riding sort of lions. Guys, from looking at it, I don't think it's been announced yet. This I could see, although they're fighting the Trident Realm and they've obviously upset the Green Lady and they are being aggressive. I could see them. I think actually it'd be very cool if they were a good army, because I think it'd be really interesting if they were good but being the aggressors and actually going to war with the neutral faction. I think that would actually be really interesting. What do you guys think?
It's an interesting concept. I think I saw somewhere that they were removing the good, evil, neutral.
Oh, that's so good.
Yes.
I've always strongly disliked that.
They removed it.
I know I've been listening to a lot of podcasts recently, and so I think it's wormed its way into my brain from somewhere, but don't take that as 100% confirmed. But like you say, the fact that they are who they are, they're very much, they're like an Eastern version of Basileia, on the grounds that they see everything that's happening in the Western kingdoms of Panathor, where the story's been currently. It's the problem for all of that fighting, fractious nature, opening the rift at Halpi's Mountain. All of that has caused them problems, and presumably other races and the like further along, and they've just gone, well, the only way we can have peace is if somebody is in charge to look after the children and stop the children fighting. So presumably they do view themselves as, we're the good guys, we're here to stop somebody cracking the world open again and causing all the issues. So yeah, I like the idea that they're not an evil faction out to conquer for the sake of conquering. They are just trying to bring everybody under the one banner, the one nation, and then go, right, no more squabbling, and we can all get along peacefully, and we can have our lives without having to worry about somebody eating your face off or feeding you to a Night Stalker.
The more we talk about this, the more excited I am, really. And I love I think on the download, I love all the dog samurai guys, but I think and the heroes are stunning. But on the download, I love the sort of Shaolin guys. I just think they're so cool. The orange robe, humans. And I think that's so interesting to have an army of dog men that also has humans in it and all the various bits and pieces. Really impressed, really impressed, really cool. And I love the kind of the detail of their kind of horse, sort of their horses, their wild beasts they've got. They sort of look like a combination between a dog and a dragon. I really like a Chinese style dragon with the long beards and things like this, moustaches. I think that looks really, really interesting. And of course, a Shaolin monkey man, an orange monkey man. That is very, very cool. There we go, guys. So yes, the model I really like is a Zorksoi. I'm going to say Prowlmaster.
Sure.
So yes, calling him Prowlmaster definitely was the way to go.
It's a good shout, him being the potential champion as well, because I never even thought about that. That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think it was Mark Zielinski actually who mentioned that he was the champion's hero. But yes, I very much. I think I'm asking for this for Christmas. Let's put it that way. Yes, very, very much. I think I'll probably get the. And it's interesting. They don't have ambush boxes anymore or Mega Army boxes, and I think the feel of the release. We can talk about the way the books look, and it's books plural in a second. But actually, I think the way, even on the web store, the way it looks and the way the boxes look now with the black, I think it just looks a lot more premium to me than sometimes Mantic looks, if that makes sense. I think if I think of how boxes and models look on a shelf, I always think GWs always look nice. I think the Conquest Last Argument to King stuff always looks really nice. But then I look at this new Claws in the Sand box set, and it looks, I'm sure the quality of the cardboard won't be that amazing because Mantic are really good at keeping the cost down. But to me, it looks like a premium product. I really like the new style. So for me, I'm really impressed. I think it looks really. They've just stepped up again. They've gone up to another level. And the fact I haven't talked about the Trident Realm, the new sculpts for the Depth Horrors and the Placoderms are fantastic. And funnily enough, I played against Glenn Waring at Clash of Kings this year. Absolutely lovely chap. And he sort of just casually mentioned, he couldn't give me any details, but he mentioned he was doing some of the painting for 4th edition, and that's the Placoderms are definitely one of the ones he did. So yeah, well done, Glenn. Looks absolutely amazing, and I'm not surprised. What a talented chap. But yeah, guys, and what are our thoughts? I'm very positive. So, firstly, the rule book, looks very professional. I think there's going to be a hard copy from reading the website. There's going to be a hard copy version and there's a hardcover version. And also, I think if you buy the Claws and the Sand 2-player box set, you get a soft cover version, which makes a lot of sense to me. I love that when companies offer you the choice. And to be honest, I always like to have the hard copy book, on my shelf, and then potentially have a soft copy that I can take and not bash around or weigh me down in my army box. Just from looking at the screenshots there, it looks interesting. Just from reading the picture, looks like there's a warlord, and there's obviously a different way to unlock things. So it seems like there's quite a big change. And this sounds really, with how you unlock your army, etc. And I think this was something that was mentioned. And I think the reason for that is Mantic want to go back to, we want this to be a rank and flank game. We don't want, people just take a whole army of Alohi or a whole army of cavalry or whatever. Even though it's sometimes fun to play with your friend. Those games tend to be swingy and sometimes don't feel like playing Kings of War, if someone has an all-shooting army or whatever. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It looks like they've done a good job at it and it will look good on shelves. I think that's the main question for 4th edition, right? Like, we know that the fanboys some of them will cry out like, oh, this is change and I don't like change. Basically, right? But still probably buy it. Most of the fanboys like us will just buy it. Like, they could have done a terrible job and we would just get it. Probably. Not saying that they have. The main question is, will they manage to recruit new players? Because that's the big aim there. And so not only just, Halo players, like people who already are convinced that Mantic does great games, but also completely new players. And I think there is potential there because I can see from a sample of very limited view, but in my local gaming group, it's a very large community of people playing all sorts of games. And we've already had 2 people saying, hey, I've been lurking around for a while and I just saw the 4th edition stuff and it looks cool. And can I please get a demo game? And so to me, that says, yeah, Mantic has done a good job here. I want to see, how it develops over time. Like, once people actually receive their boxes and their books and have access to the rules on the companion, how the dynamic goes forward, but I'm quite optimistic about it. And when we talked a long time ago about, okay, what do we want for 4th edition? Well, what we want for 4th edition is more players, right? Like, that they don't screw up the game, obviously, but also we just want more players. And from what I've seen so far, I think they're on a good path for it. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's anecdotal, Clem, but it sounds really good. So there's one important thing I wanted to mention, and that's to do with the books. And this is just from reading the Mantic website for the pre-orders. So there's also, with the rule book, there's also a book called Invasion, right? And it's book 1. So under description, Kings of War Invasion is the first expansion book for Kings of War 4th edition and is crammed with rich lore, stories, art, and full army lists for the Zerkali Empire, Trident Realm, Halflings, and Salamanders. Right? So there's full army list in this book. Now, if I read the same description, the description for the Kings of War 4th edition rule book, it starts by saying, the Kings of War rulebook contains everything you need to learn the game and build lists for 16 unique factions. So at the moment, guys, I would say there's roughly 30 factions in Kings of War, right? So are we assuming that this 16 that's in the main rulebook does not include the Zerkali Empire, the Trident Realm, the Halflings, and Salamanders? So, okay, so those 2 things together is going to make 20 factions exactly, Clem. So will book 2 give us more, or is there just going to be 20 factions in Kings of War 4th edition?
I think it's only 20 factions in Kings of War 4th edition until they release a brand new faction like they've done with the Zircali. I think it's just they've grouped stuff, right? Like the armies that were theme lists, now they're not theme list anymore. It's just one list. And so there aren't the orcs and the Riftforged orcs anymore. It's just orcs. And then depending on the heroes that you take, from what I understand, I haven't seen any of this, right? But I've heard places, and that's what I understood from everything that I've read and heard. If you take a different hero, it might open up some, choices that you can add to a battalion, and that's how you group armies. So same.
So things are being consolidated, things aren't being chopped, which makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. To me, it's I almost said it's just a cosmetic change. It's a bit more than just cosmetic. Like, it really, in my opinion, makes it more readable, because, to be honest, it was a bit weird that, you have the Northern Alliance list, and then you have the theme list of the Varangers, and you have just a list of, hey, you have some entries, but go look at the Northern Alliance area. And it's like kind of confusing in a way. I mean, obviously, when you look at the companion...
I hated that, Clem. No, I mean, that felt like placeholder stuff that made it into the final thing. If you want people to really love their faction, if you play Varanger, you really love that. It feels like such a sort of half step to... Okay, now go and read your hated enemies army list for the rest of the information. It's like, it's designed for people that are playing it as a game, a competitive game, not for people who want to really fall in love with their army and the narrative and the lore and everything like that. So, really, as far as I'm concerned, really, really good. Yes,
I agree.
I'm excited about this. This is, something a little bit special.
Yeah, I think this topic of books is a big one, right? Because on one hand, I'm definitely sad of losing the Clash of Kings yearly book. For me, that is a big selling point of Kings of War 3rd edition, that you don't have to think too much about, okay, what's the latest thing I need to play. It's in November, I get the book.
Sorry to interrupt you, buddy. I'd argue you don't need to do that, because we've got the app. I mean, if you don't want to buy these books, you don't have to. You've got the information in the app.
No, fair.
I'd argue, I mean, Clash of Kings, most years, I know we had the big red book, right? But most years, it was a bit of lore for the new factions, plus a bit of rebalancing. And every faction would have a tiny bit, maybe half a page. And then, there would be mistakes made and stuff. So you're better off trusting the app anyway. Whereas this way, we're getting a really nice book, and not just an okay book, with very focused lore on 4 factions. Like, we're getting something that you're going to want to put on your shelf and keep. It's not like, oh, okay, that's last year's Clash of Kings. There was a bit of lore in that, but I'd rather spend, and this is more expensive. The new version is more expensive, so the price in euros is $47.50, right? So it's not a cheap book, but it looks beautiful. And it's the kind of thing you're going to want to keep. It's not spend €30 and you may or may not chuck it out next year. It's something you want to have around, right?
That part I agree with, and I wanted to say I'm sad about. I like the stability of once a year. There's changes, and everybody gets something kind of on the same page, sort of, almost. Although we've already seen that with the release of new kits, like with the Forces of the Abyss, the Trident Realm. The Twilight Kin was already kind of bending the Clash of King concept a little bit, with out of cycle releases. But I really, really like the idea of a really, like you said, a really nice book. Like, I haven't seen it yet, but what I'm expecting is, nice artwork, nice pictures, some cool lore, like really a book that, as you said, you want to collect. And you want to reopen later. It's not something that is, just used quickly, and then once it's outdated, you just can recycle it. So that part I really, really enjoy, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm a bit surprised about putting army lists in the core book, because I had the impression that maybe they could have kept that separate. I still like having a paper version of the lists, but I don't know. Like I'm curious to see what the core book will look like with the 16 lists in there that will over time be replaced by new stuff in the future campaign books. But yeah, no, I think it's a very interesting proposition for books.
Yeah, Clem, I think you mentioned a while back on a MUP Monthly that you just wanted them to get rid of the army lists from the rule book, and you have me on that completely. Now you've said that, I completely agree with you. I just get the army list out of there. But
in a way, it's kind of like you said also, right? Like I want to have a nice hardback book that is like a collector item, and you open it at home, in a comfy armchair, like the grandpas that we are, and you read the book, and you just get into the universe and you enjoy it in that regard. And at that point, do you want to look at army lists that will be probably outdated in 6 months? Maybe not so much, versus everything else, like the core rules and the core fluff that I hope there's some fluff in the core book. I think there is. I think this totally makes sense. And then you can have like the soft cover book that is replaced whenever there's a new tweak of the rules. Gerry.
I think it's important to note right off the start, the rulebook, the core rules in the 2-player starter set is not the same as the full rulebook. The softcover, hardcover, ignore that for a moment. The 2-player starter set has got a cut down version, got a bit of history. It's got the core rules, not the advanced rules. The army lists are on separate cards, so it's just there to get people started. If they want the full rules, then they'll have to go to either the app or pick up the full rulebook. The rulebook and the invasion book are both going to be hardcover to begin with, but when they reprint them, they're going to softcover then. So the softcover in the 2-player starter set is not just a softcover version of the rulebook. It's just a cut down, get you started one.
That's really interesting. They did something kind of similar, but a little bit different for 3rd edition. Do you remember they had the big green book, which was the hardback one that had all the lore, and then they had what they called the Gamers Edition, if I'm getting that right, which was the soft cover, just the rules bit.
This is going to be even smaller than that because it's not going to take into account some of the expanded advanced rules. This is just to get people who are brand spanking new into Kings of War and into 4th playing with what's in the box. And then you'll have to progress by going and getting the rules off the app or whatever it happens to be. But it is interesting. I know what you're saying about just having the core book without the rules in it. I think it's probably a cost thing there more than anything else. Doing 2 separate books, even if the page count ends up being roughly the same, is going to be more expensive than just printing everything in one. So, although otherwise I quite like the army lists, even if they do get outdated, because I like to flick. I'm not a fan of. I still do everything on paper first, and then I go into the app afterwards to type it out so I can send it to somebody. So I'm very old school in that, but I know what you mean about having a nice, lovely book that you've got all of your, maybe not even all the rules, and a similar thing that they did with the PDF that was just all the background. If they just had, here is Kings of War, here's 4th edition book, this is where the story is so far, kind of thing, because we know that each of the 6 books are going to be taking us through the next 4 years, isn't it? It'll be more or less 2 a year. I'm not sure when because I can't imagine we're not going to get 2 books this year. So Invasion's coming, and then next year Fracture and Arrogance maybe, and the year after Ruination and Alliance.
That makes sense.
And then the last year Death.
I think in a full year we're expecting two books a year, aren't we? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll and those, being able to get those hardback as a nice story, I think will be lovely. I still have on my shelf the End Times books, lest we forget what happened with those. And weirdly, they kind of did what you were talking about. They were two books. One was all the story, and then one was the any new bits and pieces that got added to it as well. but they were slipcase. So you got like a slipcase that contained Nagash or Glotkin or Thankful or Kane, and so each one of the 5 came out, and you would get the expanded story. Obviously, I'm hoping that death isn't the death of Panathor, and it explodes and everything was back on round bases at the end. That would be terrible. I'd cry, but
That'd be interesting.
That would be very funny.
Well, they all go to 10 mil, not round bases.
Well,
So,
yeah.
10 mil.
The huge unleash of magic from the rifts shrinks everybody in the world. So you're still playing on your 28 mil scenery, but with 10 mil figures.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm still for it.
I'm 100% on board with it. But yeah, I think it's fascinating that, because this is a massive step, book printing is the most expensive thing for wargaming companies, which is why so many of them have moved away to living rulebooks and apps and stuff online. Because while you can create resin, metal, plastic miniatures in-house or through subcontractors, the printing always has to go to somewhere else and costs an absolute fortune compared to profit and cost. And that's one of the reasons why I think probably for a long time Mantic were quite content to do a book a year, and then not have to worry too much about it. So this represents a tremendous investment, far beyond what they would normally do. And I know from gaming point of view, we all think in terms of toy soldiers and going, oh, they've released a new plastic set. But releasing a book requires writers, illustrators, graphic designers, and artists, none of which are going to be in-house, probably. They may have a few people who will do some story writing for them in-house, but all of that's going to be more expensive than getting Luigi to sculpt a dog-faced Chinese warrior and then getting Archon to stick on a sprue and pump out 150,000 of them. Those are massive investments in time and resources. And the fact that they've gone, well, this is a 4-year plan. Here are 6 books. We have a very definite idea of where we're going. Shows that they really are pushing the investment in Kings of War. And I think the problem will be people won't see that as, they'll look at purely in a point of view of, oh, there's only 4 army lists in this book, or maybe the next book only has 3. Across 6 books, there could be 4 in each one, or you might have 3, or maybe 5. I don't think they've said that it's definitely going to be 4 in each book, but potentially 24 lists at the end of it. And they're all thinking, everybody I've seen talking about it have gone, oh, when this book comes out and these 4 lists, all of a sudden, they're better than everybody else, and then they're going to have to rebalance online, and they're going to have to, how are these armies not just going to roll over everybody, and are we going to be worried about power creep in the books? And they're all thinking at a purely mechanical point of view, and not on a narrative and investment point of view. This is Mantic laying down a marker and going, this time Kings of War 4th is different because it's not just a clean up and a tweak of the rules. We're pushing the story forward, and we're pushing what we want Kings of War and Panathor to be in a huge, huge way. So I'm 100% on board for it.
It feels like they've got the resources and the confidence that they're on top of things, and they've been able to plan 5 years ahead. It's not kind of, well, let's throw out this release. As Clem kind of says, you get the feeling over the years that sometimes Mantic throw a lot of stuff out there and just see what sticks, and then throw more of that. Whereas this is, they're confident, and they let's be honest, it's probably a big difference is they've got the resources and the manpower to plan this far ahead. But to me, it gives me tremendous confidence for the future.
Oh, 100%, I agree with you. I'd be fascinated to see where things go and what we get down the line. That may mean someday people will see Kingdoms of Men. Who knows? Or maybe Alliances is something else.
Is it too early for us to say, guys, why was everyone so worried?
Oh, no.
It was so bizarre, people having meltdowns. And it's like, calm down, we don't know anything yet. We know Mantic have got good intentions. Some people, I know what people are like, and some people are going to go at that and go, I don't want to buy a book every 6 months. Are you crazy? And like, well, you don't have to buy it. It's still all in the app. Exactly. Whereas, people like me that want to have beautiful books on their shelves and collect, I like the idea of collecting these books. That's brilliant. So, of course people will find reasons to try and criticise this, but as far as I'm concerned, this is absolutely fantastic. I'm really excited. I think they've got really good intentions. The products they're selling are just better, frankly. The quality's better. They're presenting them in a more professional way. They've thought things through. Everything's really joined up. It was an interesting choice, I think, to get Lesio back, because third edition, if I'm remembering it right, I think third edition was purely, a rules committee coming up with a tweak.
Rules committee and Matt, yeah.
Whereas this is just a serious overhaul, as we've sort of mentioned, and everything I've heard sounds good. I like the fact they've changed the army boxes. I mean, the Mega Army boxes of old they used to look cheap. They used to be cheap cardboard because they were such unbelievably good value. But I always got the impression, particularly with, let's say, for example, the Warpath Mega Army boxes, I got the impression Mantic were just desperate for you to buy their models. You'd buy an outrageous amount of stuff for, £100-ish. And I got the feeling Mantic were like, oh, please buy our models. Whereas now this is just a confident, you're getting a lot less stuff, but it's all presented nicely and looks really nice quality. So I think it's absolutely the way for Mantic to go. I'm really, really impressed.
Well, one of the things, I don't know if you've picked up on this, looking at the new stuff, is they've finally embraced multi-basing. And by that I mean, even when they were selling units, that we were all going to multi-base anyway because nobody puts things on single bases if they can get away with it for Kings of War. The unit would be a 20-man regiment of Basilean men-at-arms, a 6 ogre horde of warriors. And now they've finally gone with the Zerkali here. Those bases are the same size as the depth horrors for the Trident. So they're 150s by 50, but they've got 4 on them. And I think the same with the placoderms. There's 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, 8 on what would be a 10-man troop base. And they've said, I know Kyle said this, they're no longer looking at things in terms of a 20-man unit, a 10-man unit, a whatever, a 3-man regiment. Now they're looking at going, okay, what makes sense for this unit on that base? And that means if they're going to do a 16-man unit, or a 4-man, or a 20, they'll make the model that's most appropriate for the figure they're attempting to represent and the size of the figure, so they can be a lot more expansive on the frames when they come to make these Zerkali warriors, because they're not trying to get 6 on there. They're getting 4 onto a similar base size, and then you can still go, well, I'm going to multi-base, I'm actually going to put 3 on, and then put some big stones in the middle of it to save me space so I can squeeze another regiment out. But they've finally, in their mind, gone, we don't need to be doing, 1 figure per 50 mil square or 1 figure per 20 mil square. We can be going, we're using a multi-base sized system. We'll put 8 on there, and that'll look great. Or we'll put 15 on there, whatever it happens to be. And if you look, some of the new releases, the unit size is weird. They're odd numbers because they're not thinking about it in terms of miniature per base, and then you can multi-base if you want. They're thinking about it as a multi-base. This is the space you're going to fill.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like they're confident enough. They believe in what they've been. They're practicing what they preach, or they believe in what they've been selling. If that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Great, guys. Super. Is there anything else? I mean, we've heard lots of things about the rules. In the build up to 4th edition, things like hordes can split their attacks. At first, I wasn't sure about that because I thought, it might slow the game down. But actually, if I think about it, that's quite a fair way to do it. Anything that makes hordes of infantry more playable, I've got to be on board with, to be honest. So,
I don't think it's just hordes. I think it's any
unit.
No,
it's not. No, it's not. But it's, if you play in tournaments and things, if you have a horde of guys, they'll get blocked up by smaller units, so they can't efficiently attack things. And being able to split attacks will make hordes of infantry more playable, So, yes.
Then it also comes back to the changes in combat itself, where you can only get 2 units in a multi-charge now, so there's not going to be any individual +3 units because we can just about squeeze them in there against your frontage. It's just 2. Doesn't matter what size you are. If you're going on the same frontage, and then if you want to go around the back, you can go around the back, and but you're still limited to where the bases overlap. But then once you're engaged, you're stuck. So there's no horde or unit engaged by 2 suddenly going, well, I'm going to ignore this group of people beating on me and just slide along to one side and attack this one. You're all stuck in that melee until you can either attempt to withdraw or take your opponent out by fighting back against them both. And you can still go, well, I'm going to aim for the weaker unit because I don't think I'll survive another round anyway, or just really attempt to punch as much face as you can. But there's lots of little tweaks like that. That'll be fascinating to see how they play out. But until you see the whole rules, it's still going to be very nebulous. There's nothing I've seen that I've looked at and went, oh my God, I can't believe they've done that. I quite like the fact that wavering is gone, because I'd never managed to roll a headstrong or whenever I needed it for dwarves anyway. So that was a wasted ability for me. But at the same time, I don't like archers or shooting being so overpowered it can rout armies off the table. And I've done it to people in the past with ogre shooters. So having it be capped at wavered, your unit can only be wavered by shooting, it can't be routed. That's nice. And it pushes the emphasis back on the melee combatants on the table, not on individuals, not on casters or multiple units of shoot. You're going to have to get in there and get your hands dirty to remove your opponent from the board.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, Jerry. Yes, I think with shooting, it's you can't actually remove things from the board unless something is devastated or something like that, which is a very rare situation.
Yeah.
So, to me, I mean, if you're doing that much shooting, you're not even really playing Kings of War, to be honest, because I think why Kings of War is an interesting game is all about movement and the terrain and mitigating for things. I think that's to me, that's what's interesting about Kings of War. Not, if you want to sit back and just shoot things off the board, you may as well just go and play 40k. But each to their own, dear listener. Cool. And everything I've seen rules-wise sounds positive. Clem?
Yeah, no, I agree with what you guys said. One thing I'm curious to see is it will open up new ways of playing, I think, because if I understood correctly, basically everyone got nimble now, or ordered march at least. Maybe not nimble, but ordered march. So you can pivot once more when you go at the double. Is that right? Something like this.
They've added an additional pivot into some movement orders. Yeah.
Right.
But nimble still exists specifically for units on the charge. So if you would have one pivot, normally you get 2 with nimble. And then I think...
So it's not for the charge, it's for normal movement.
Yeah.
But you can pivot a bit more. But so, all I wanted to say is there are some changes like this. And my impression is it will slightly change how you play the game, but it will still feel like it's Kings of War. And so ultimately, I'm eager to actually see it and try it on the table, but I find it quite interesting that, it's still the game that we know and love, but with some tweaks here and there that make it also a new gaming experience. And so that part I'm quite excited about. I was a bit worried about, flyers and the removal of the 1-inch rule. Like it from what I can imagine, it makes flyers stronger, but I also have trust in Alessio and the playtesters to, have looked into this and make sure that it still is a fun game to play. And so ultimately, I'll just stick to what Alessio told everybody, just play it before you comment too much on it. And I haven't played it yet, so I won't comment much more than I'm eager to try it out. So, yeah.
Oh, one thing I'd mention as well is apparently, I think when you charge, you no longer have to take the shortest possible path. So I think there's a little bit more of being able to sort of smartly avoid terrain. And as long as it's not too much, as long as I don't feel like my opponent is kind of gaming the system, as it were, I think that's probably quite a nice tweak, to be honest. It's interesting, sure.
What do you think about the allies?
The fact that there is no ally anymore?
Yes.
I've never liked allies anyway. So, and I think most events also didn't allow them.
So
So
a quick question for you then, Clem. Why have you never played allies? Just from my own curiosity.
yeah, I think it's because I always think of my armies as one project, and so I design. Okay, what do I want to do with this army? Like, why am I even making this army? And now when I, go through my old collection to, go play a game, I don't necessarily have the thought even, or won't come to the idea of, okay, I'll take 1,000 points of my salamanders and then, 1,000 points of my ogres and play those together. I think it's from a very practical level from how I've designed the armies to begin with. And then from a competitive point of view, I think allies make everything much harder because it gives more options to over-optimizers. And I think what makes the game interesting is that some faction can do some things well, but at a cost of not doing other things so well. And when you bring allies on the table, you might just, overcompensate for that stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. What about yourself, Chris? Allies, yeah or nay?
The only times I ever see people taking allies is when they're trying to be super competitive and, take, Glade Stalkers with Ice Elementals, and then try and pretend it's thematic. I've never once seen someone take something that's genuinely, lore based and just because it's their lovely army idea. I've only ever seen people trying to game the system, as it were, and mitigate. So if you play. And to me, if you play, let's say, for example, you play dwarves, the character of the army is very, very strong and it's its own thing. And then if you start to take dwarves and then with a low here allies, to me it diminishes, it makes it less interesting. It also makes the game less interesting because dwarves should play like dwarves and playing against dwarves should be like playing against dwarves, if that makes sense. Should be for you and for your opponent. It should be very, we know where we are. And I get the arguments, I get the positive arguments for allowing allies and saying things like, well, someone can start a second army and get going and all this kind of thing. But it's just, to me, it's not a good reason to do it. I've never once seen an interesting, compelling lore reason why someone takes allies. It's always just gaming the system. And I think, Jerry, you're building to something. So I'm going to pass back to you rather than repeat myself a third time, buddy.
I don't know if I'm building towards anything, but it's fascinating. I'm 100% with you from the competitive point of view. Allies have always been a crutch to a certain extent, more so in fantasy games, because obviously you did get allies in historic conflicts. But whenever somebody looks at allies, they always go for the chaos. Coordinate warriors are the best, but they can't have magic, therefore I will ally in something. Or chaos couldn't have shooting, therefore here was my 25% of Dark Elf repeater bolt throwers, would just upset your opponent. And in a similar way, you can do, obviously, Elohi are the big prime example, but Dracons are right up there as well, for filling slots as a crutch to annoy your opponent. But it was funny seeing that a few people pushing back on the removal of allies, and I can't remember if it was Matt or Alessio had written that particular blog entry, and they were saying that most competitions or large tournaments ban or restrict the use of allies heavily anyway, and then seeing narrative players coming in afterwards going, but we still want to play. And in my head, it was written in the actual blog entry, we shouldn't be telling you how to play at home if you want to play whatever way you happen to do it. But the mindset of not just Kings of War players, but a lot of war gamers these days is the rules as written are almost sacrosanct. You can't, they don't feel like they have the permission to play in a different way. I even seen somebody saying that their local club he suggested taking something else that wouldn't be allowed by the rule list building wise, and their point, well, I don't want to cheat, but it's a narrative friendly game. So long term, I'll be interested to see. We don't really see a huge amount of campaign type games, or even when you see people doing battle reports and stuff for Kings of War, they all tend to be, even when they're not at a tournament, very tournament based. You see armies that have been written for a specific reason, whether sometimes they are play testing for a tournament, but I'd love to see some more narrative games where people just played around with it. I have a lot of miniatures from various collections, including Dogs of War. Games Workshop sold Dogs of War, which were a variety of human, mostly mercenaries, with a very strong Renaissance theme to them. And I was looking at those going, well, that will do my League of Rhodia. However, there's a couple of units that I couldn't field as League of Rhodia. So there was the Birdmen of Cataraza, who are essentially crossbowmen on Leonardo da Vinci's winged suit, where they would pedal around. So whenever I've been playing with that Dogs of War army with Paul, whenever we get together for our regular games, if I play my Dogs of War, they are actually Salamander Firewings, X-Wings, Firewings, Scorch Wings.
Scorch Wings, yes.
They were in my head somewhere.
You power gamer.
Because they can both shoot and they can stab things up. But at no point did Paul go, because you're looking at it going, well, theoretically, you couldn't take those as allies based on the ally list. So we just discounted the ally rules just to allow me to get this, because it's a majestic looking army on the table. So I've always felt allies can be fine, and proxying in things like that are fine from the narrative point of view. And I'm quite happy to see them just go, you know what, it's a head scratcher, because the fact that allies exist or existed meant that units were having to be nerfed or toned down or changed in things like Clash of Kings, simply because people spotted an opportunity to min-max in a different list. So all of a sudden, this Unit A may be okay for your army, but when it's put into another army, it becomes great, and then everybody starts copying that. So then your unit gets smashed in the face by the nerf bat, and all of a sudden it's not as good in your army anymore, not because of what you were doing, but because of a completely different army type was using them as allies. And then that makes your core army weaker. And then the other army goes, well, sod it, we'll find something else from another unit to ally in. So I'm glad to see allies being given the boot firmly up the backside. And at the same time, I'd like to remind anybody listening who doesn't happen to be a full-on tournament player that you can always take allies. Nobody can stop you taking allies. Have a bit of fun.
And I'd add to that, Jerry, that if we were to play and you had allies, I would have absolutely no problem with that, because I know your intentions are pure as the pure-driven snow, Jerry.
As I keep telling people, I bring fluffy lists. I mean, when was the last time you seen a Basilean list that contained 5 units of Paladin Regiment Foot Guard?
I've never seen that, but I wish I would.
And you never will, because nobody else would ever play that, because it was terrible.
I'm sort of on the background, sort of theoretically working on my Basilean army, and yes, that's I want to do that, and the Lady Scouts. I'm not interested in doing the really meta stuff. It's just that doesn't interest me. So I'm a mediocre player who doesn't take the good stuff. What can I say? I just take what I think is cool.
Good stuff is overrated.
Absolutely. Well, it always comes back to, well, why are we doing any of this? And it's to have fun and have a good time. And I like to win, don't get me wrong. Once the game starts, I really do want to win, but it's not why I do any of this,
I mean, you do take the good stuff, but accidentally. Like it's...
Oh, yeah, like with my Salamanders army, Clem. And then I can't play it then out of shame. Like, no, I'm not the better player. Exactly. Yeah. There we go, guys. There we go. Yes, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff we've heard in terms of rules and things that we haven't touched on. I don't think ultimately it really matters. I just think, I know for me personally, I'm very very confident the 4th edition is going to be good. Everything I've seen reinforced that. I didn't understand whatsoever the negativity people had around 4th edition because, whether people will admit it now or not, a lot of people had a lot of doom and gloom, and I don't understand it for a second because I think Mantic's intentions are always good. They get things wrong, but if they do, they listen and they try and put them right. And fundamentally, they're trying to make a nice game for us. So it just didn't make any sense to me that suddenly they would do this weird curveball, out of nowhere, do something very odd, and we didn't have a lovely old game to play with nice people. So
that makes sense. One thing I'm surprised though, and I have to admit we got wrong, is the timeline, because I was expecting Force to come rather in 26, and the fact that they plan to ship in November 25 is actually impressive.
No, I mean, I always thought it was coming in November. There was the only time I thought it might come next year was when, we heard, on the download, Clem, we heard some things about, the new edition. I thought, maybe it's not as developed as I thought it was, but it was, because we knew something big was happening in November, and we knew there was another Champions box from an unnamed faction coming in November, and I think you don't put that out unless the new faction's buttoned up and ready to go, and it doesn't make sense to put out a new faction just before 4th edition. So I thought November. I was pretty confident.
Yeah. Makes sense. I think the last question on the topic is, what are you guys even getting under the Christmas tree, or even before the Christmas tree, if you're like me and you're naughty and you'll open your gifts as soon as they arrive?
I don't know what you mean, Clem. Unfortunately, I think I've opened my presents for the rest of my life already, tragically, at this point. But yes, we can get to that. I mean, Listen, I was always going to do, Clem, when we were talking about our idea of dog men, I was like, if it's some kind of, dog men, beast men, I'm in. And I'm still very much in, So, the Zakali Empire are going to have to share my love for the Trident Realm. I'm going to have to, have a complicated three-way relationship. But yeah, I'm very much going to do this army, Clem.
Nice. Yeah, I think I'll definitely get the Invasion book, because that's almost the most important part of the release for me. Like, that's the part I'm the most interested about. I'll definitely get the hardback core book as well. And I think I'll get the starter, because the starters are always amazing value anyway. And I want to see also the latest kits. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what I'll get. I'm not sure if I'll do a lot, full armies with the content of the starter. Probably not. Probably just, small ambush force with it, just to give it a try and see how it goes.
That in itself, Clem, is a really fun little hobby project. And if I don't actually, because Trident Realm isn't your jam, but doing an ambush force and knowing that's the end of it is a really fun little hobby project, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Jerry? Do you have already some plans for the new stuff? All the books for the shelf?
All the books. They're definitely going up. I mean, there will be room once I lift down the end times, probably. It's the next bit of GW stuff that will get relegated to a bottom shelf that I'll never see again. So yeah, I'll definitely be picking up Invasion and the core rules. I'll probably grab the 4th edition starter bundle, and then, because I can use everything in it, the new Plackies and Depth Horrors in particular are gorgeous. And the Zerkali, I think I can overlook the Hunter battle group. Their failings, let's put it like that. I can overlook the failings of those models to put them on the table with the dog-faced Imperial Chinese.
Jerry, sorry to interrupt you, buddy. What about a little bit of kit bashing, just to make them look a little bit more oriental?
I'm very lazy these days. I am
that's what I pay Mantic to do for me. Yes.
Fair point.
The problem is, because I've done kit bashing in the past, and then if I want to go back and do it again, sometimes it's difficult. I've got a couple of units of Dogs of War I say Dogs of War, not Dogs of War. League of Rodria, Beast Cav, and I made them up out of resin halfling knights done by Westphalia, and then they went away for a long time, and Paul Hex has released them through Footsore again recently, although not all of them, just some. And then I also used bunny rabbits from Weird Miniatures for, I'm going to say Carnivale, it's not Carnivale. Oh, what do Weird do?
Malifaux.
Thank you. Yes, so every Easter they do a bunny goblin miniature as an alternative sculpt. Those two hordes of Beast Cav cost somewhere around about £500 to £600. So I'm very reluctant to kit bash these days because sometimes I start writing checks that I shouldn't be cashing when the mood takes me, but they do look really nice. But to do a third if I wanted to add a third regiment, I'd have to wait until Easter because you can't get the bunnies outside of Easter. And then I would have to source some of those resin halflings that aren't released currently or out of production. So I'm loath to start kit bashing unless I know exactly how many I will need total forever and that I can get all the parts. Because if I have to return to it in a year or two to add another regiment, discover I can't get the hats, then I'm done for. So, yeah.
It's annoying.
Everything will be made as per the box. There should be no messing around. But yeah, I'll definitely pick up the 2-player starter set. I may look at picking up some of the other bits and pieces, but just to I mean, all of the Zerkali resins are really, really, I want to swear, but I won't. Sorry, Fred. Nice. The Goklo dragon, gorgeous. The Witch Hunter, we've not even talked about the Witch Hunter. The Witch Hunter with his 2 hounds, stunning. The Shao Quan monk ape, all of them.
Also pretty cool.
I just want to. I mean, I could just hit the "Give me everything" bundle button. That's too much, though.
It's pricey, isn't it? That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Just so you know, dear listener, in euros, that is 466.81. I would love that bundle, but that is a lot of money. So what I've done, I mean, what I tend to do is I split up my purchase. I may well end up spending that on the army and the books and everything, but I'm just splitting up my purchase. So what I'm doing is I've asked my friendly local gaming store if they could please get me is it called the Battalion box, which is the army, you know, the new equivalent to the Mega Army box for the Zerkali. And I've also asked him to get me the Invasion book. And then I'll get those 2 things, and then maybe next month or the month after but get the 2-player starter box definitely, because I mean, come on, it's my 2 favourite armies in the whole game in one box. 6 really nice depth horrors, the new placoderms. I must admit, I am a little bit frustrated. They came up with these gorgeous models when last year I had to kit bash, my own placoderms of salamanders. But still, thanks. But it just goes to show, Mantic do listen, because we were complaining bitterly about this, and now suddenly they've done it. So to be fair, maybe we can put a positive spin on this and say, no, Mantic do listen. But I think this Zerkali range, this is just fantastic. It really is. Just really, and I think it's going to be so fun to paint. You know, really do, really, really do.
We've not even talked about the placoderms getting a new weapon option.
Oh, totally right.
It is really nice
because they only come with spears currently, but all of a sudden they've got massive double-handed, what looks like swords made from. Yeah, that looks like they've killed a rake of swordfish.
Exactly.
And we're just going to use your snouts. So yeah, that's gorgeous. I got an email from Dan at Mantic talking about the Halo ODST. Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called. Yeah, the Orbital Shock Drop Troopers or something. I had it on the Xbox 360.
And underneath there was a ... By the way, placoderms are definitely confirmed. I know you're keen on them. It's going. Do you? How do you know that? Where have you been listening, Dan? Are you listening to us now? Are you, Dan? Are you listening? You're right. I do want the placoderms. Give me the placoderms.
Hi, Dan.
So, but
We
yes,
like you very much, Dan. Thank you for everything. Yes. Yeah, we like Dan very much. He's a cool guy. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean we know Mantic. We know Mantic do listen to the pod. It's very nice. Perfect, guys.
Wait, I have one last question on the topic of fourth.
Go
So,
for it.
what army will you play first and fourth? Like, what's your army for the next 6 months?
I'll answer it quick.
Have you decided?
I'll go first because it's really quick. Yeah, I mean Trident Realm and Zakali Empire, Clem. Easy.
All right, cool.
I'm
Jerry,
going to mix
how
it
about
up
you?
by going Zerkali and probably Trident Empire or Trident Realms.
Me and Jerry get on very well.
Why would you
Nice.
not just want to lick and play the new hotness? It makes no sense.
Yeah, fair. No,
Dog
it's a good
people,
point.
it's game over. We're shouting monks and dog men. Come on.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think I might just dust off my salamanders and see what's up with them, because did I understand correctly that they said so? Obviously, they're a part of the invasion book, so they will
Yeah, they're
get
in the
probably
new
a
book,
new revised stuff. So I'm expecting at least a hero or something. But
Yeah.
did I understand that they will also do the salamanders as a full digital army release? Because I think
That's-
I've heard in the news.
That's what I've heard, yes.
Yes, that's an interesting approach to me, because they've said something similar for Epic Warpath, right? So obviously the new starter sets, the 2-player starter set for Epic Warpath is Plague and Enforcers. And so it's about to hit the shelves, I think, once they're done with shipping all of the Kickstarter stuff. But I think there's also a My Mini Factory campaign coming out soon for Epic Warpath. And so obviously it will be STL-based stuff. And if you want to make a playable Plague list or Enforcers list, you have to have some of the core units that are on the plastic sprue now available also as STL. And so that's an interesting development. Look, I've always thought they'll never ever give STL for something they sell you plastic for, but it looks like they've changed their mind on this, and I find it quite interesting. So I was wondering what you guys think about this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm positive when Ronnie was over filming the Warpath stuff with me, he said that was going to be coming as a fully digital campaign in a similar way they did with Dead Zone to a certain extent. So we've already seen a few other models in the vault in the last few months that were plastic kits had snuck in there. So the mule for the Plague, it snuck in. So they've slowly been dropping a few plastics in. And Ronnie was saying there's some people who will get it and play it because it's 3D printable in its entirety, whereas they may not try if some of it's only available in plastic, simply because ease of accessibility. So I know getting stuff into some South American countries is literally impossible. And it's not a big wargaming community when you think about the amount of wargamers there are in places like America or Europe or whatever, but we tend to think about accessibility in our own local terms sometimes. You know, the same way Americans will laugh at Europeans for not driving 4 hours to play a tournament. And you go, well, if I drive 4 hours, I've gone through 15 different countries and half a dozen different dialects. But when you get beyond that, even to things like Asia and Australia, getting plastic sprues or finding a gaming venue is relatively difficult. So all of a sudden, if people can print everything from dice to miniatures in its entirety and then have the full rules on the app, then at that point they're no longer having to worry about, can my local game store get me this, or this company doesn't ship to my ... location.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jerry. How useful to Mantic is that customer, though?
Well, it's somebody buying who wouldn't have been buying otherwise. And if they buy into one game, then they're going to introduce friends, and then they have the potential to move into some of Mantic's other options. And I think Mantic will we've already seen it with Dead Zone. They may push for something similar in the future with maybe another small scale miniature game. So maybe we'll see Vanguard. Well, Vanguard actually did go digital, didn't it, first, before Dead Zone?
It did.
So,
it did.
So,
absolutely.
So the potential for growing a group, and even if all they're buying is just a handful of STLs every now and again, then it's getting them traction in an area they otherwise wouldn't be able to reach. And long term, who knows what that will potentially become.
I'm Brandon Rossbond of Winged Hussar Publishing, and you're listening to the Mantic Universe Podcast.
This is Max McDougall saying, so much universe, so little time.
Yeah, that's true, Jerry. I mean, I agree with Clem. I thought that, you buy your mule in hard plastic, and then if you want it to be a plague mortar mule or whatever, then you print off the additional bits to sort of specialise it from the vault. To me, my guess would be that these kits are not selling as well as Mantic would like them to be selling, and they're trying something a bit different with them. But maybe that's off. Maybe that's not right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's just a lack of sales. It's more, I can see what you're saying. Like, it makes them more accessible, and therefore it's a win for them.
Yeah, but who knows? And maybe we'll be talking to Ronnie soon, so maybe that's something we can chat to him about. And yes. Be interesting to hear, but yes, absolutely, guys, super. So, should we move on?
There was news.
Hey, let's talk about Warpath very briefly, guys. So, yes, Clem, we have our epic scale Warpath stuff, and this hasn't impacted me directly, but I just wanted to have a little grumble, right? So, Clem, when it comes to 3D printing things and having things in hard plastic, right? If somebody, without mentioning any names or, whatever, if somebody has accidentally put something in slightly the wrong scale, Clem, and it doesn't look, if you put the 3D printed stuff next to the hard plastic stuff, I would want someone to say, whoops, sorry about that, I'll tell you what, I'll correct it. I would not expect them to say, no, in the law, this is older than this one, and therefore it's a bit bigger and it looks stupid next to each other. Clem, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, nobody can tell me not to reprint some of the stuff that I've printed to a slightly bigger scale so that they fit the plastic injected version of it. So, just talking about the Plague Mules and GCPS vehicles, right? Like the Onager and the Canis Command, something like this. I don't remember the names. Yeah, the scale is slightly wrong in the STL. But otherwise, it's been lovely to print a bunch of stuff in advance. And while I was eagerly waiting for my sprues to arrive, I've assembled a bunch of the stuff already. My goal is to just do Plague and Enforcers, just like the starter intended to be, and because I haven't read the anthology novel, but I want to, and I think it's Enforcers and Plague, so it made sense for me to also make the models like this. But yeah, so yes to the complaint about the scale, and I've been very happy to have all of those STLs. It's been quite good. And I think you see a lot of people on social media were like, oh, where can I buy this bundle of all of the STLs? I was like, well, for now you can't. It was just Kickstarter, and they'll be available later in one form or another. And I'm really glad I got it, because it was just a mind-blowingly good deal. I don't even remember the price for it, but it's every single STL for the expansion models, just in one bundle, and that's still great value. So
was it something like 80 quid? I'm just guessing, but was it something like 80?
Something like that, maybe 180 or 100 for 8 factions and many models, and for each faction. Totally worth it, in my opinion. But it's we've mentioned it in the past already, right? Like the Vault could do with some way of versioning the files a bit better somehow, to figure out, okay, which one is the QA corrected one and so on. But all that being said, I'm still very thankful to have the option. Really makes it a lot more enjoyable for me. So that's been lovely. It just reminds me, completely different topic, but we're talking about Warpath and still kind of news. I think we've completely missed out on a bunch of releases for Firefight and Dead Zone, haven't we? Like, I think they've come up with new units and new entries, and I don't know about you guys, but I haven't looked at it yet. Oops.
No,
do you even know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, there was a whole rules rejig for Firefight that I haven't really had a look at, Clem. So, yeah, we're way behind. Hence, at the top of the show, me going, does anyone want to do this for us? Because we're just not qualified to discuss it. We're not doing enough. Although, Clem, to be fair, I think our next gaming weekend, I think it should be a cheeky little epic.
Yeah, it will definitely be Epic. Epic will be my main game, I think, in the next few months. Of course, 4th edition will come on gaming tables near me, but my mind is really focused on Warpath and so obviously Epic and, Dead Zone and Firefight to play, some scenarios on the side and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to get increasingly tricky as well, Clem, because the StarCraft stuff looks really nice as well. And, I will be buying that and painting it, so,
just stop sleeping and then you can do all of it.
Can I ask you guys, I'm curious, when you got your Epic Warpath stuff, did you go for a complete army, so army plus reinforcements plus support, or how did you do it? Because I ended up grabbing 4 armies, he said in a high questioning voice, but all I went for is the base plastics in each one, just so I can get a feel for the game. Now, it means potentially that Paul, who just went for Vermin, may have access to more unit types because he's got the reinforcements and stuff like that. So that's question 1. And question 2 is, have you tried pointing any of it up yet?
So I got everything, but the way I went for it is plastics first, because when you look at it, each of the core box for Epic Warpath almost gives you a full army. I think the one exception is the Asterians, because for some reason the sprue is quite smaller and it does not reach 2,000 points or so. But otherwise, I think for most of the other factions, and even the Asterians are pretty close to 2,000 points. So you can definitely play full games with just one core box. And I think that's amazing. But also my thinking was, if I get the STL bundle and I have a resin printer at home, I can print everything else. So why would I buy, the super heavies or the reinforcement as cast resin or printed resin by Mantic when I get the STL and can just do it on my own? So I got one core box of every single faction, so I have 8 of those, and the rest I will print, and that's it. What was the second question? Did I paint anything? Not yet.
No. Have you pointed anything up yet?
Ooh, no. So, right, so I play tested the game, so I had some idea already about it, but also it was a long time ago, and so now for assembling and opening my boxes, I just went very dumb and didn't do any list building and just used the getting started lists for the Enforcers and the Plague, and they're 2,000 points each, and you can make all of that with just the core box, like just the core plastics, and that's perfect for me. So I will probably even write smaller lists for demo games, 1,000 points or something like this, to have a bit less stuff on the table. When I get to doing my GCPS and the rest of the armies, I'll play around with list building, but for now I'm not even there. But I think every single box gives you, as you said, basically a full army, like 2,000 points army already. So
I think Plague is a bit short from what I've seen. Because I think I sat down and I went through Plague and I got up to about not even 1,800 points, but I had to buy every single strategy that existed in the game to even get that far. Forge Fathers, on the other hand, by Grabthar's hammer, what a savings. Forge Fathers, easily 2,000 points, if not substantially more in that box. I think I stopped counting around about 3,000.
I mean, if you look at the Plague, the getting started list is basically designed to go with the 2-player starter set. I'm pretty sure that's the content of the core box, and it is a 2,000 point list. So I don't remember exactly how they do it. They just put everything on the table, right? Like in 3 battalions.
I
think
so. Well, I suppose if you go for a third, no, hang on, I've got 3 companies in it. I'll have to go back and see what they've done because I've got all 3 companies on and still couldn't hit that. But like you said, they're still healthy enough. I suppose the nice thing is with something like the Enforcers or the Forge Fathers, you're going to have options in there that you can swap in for smaller armies. Whereas the Plague, I think, is probably, and maybe the Nameless and Vermin as well may suffer from this because I've not gone through them. But you may find that you're going to have to use all your toys to get up to your opponents.
That makes sense because they're more horde armies, right? Like I would expect the GCPS as well, that just 1 core box will probably get you up to speed, but you'll most likely want to 3D print some or get a second box to get a bit more volume of the base troops. Like I'm definitely getting the 2-player starter set for Epic Warpath, for example, because I want a second core box of the Plague just because I want more zombies. Like this is how you do it. And also very quickly, when you look at the roster for the Plague, the big guys, so the aberrations, the corruptions, they are not in plastic. You have to print them or get them as reinforcements. And I think they are pretty important. I mean, at least in firefights, I definitely want to have them in a list. In Epic, remains to be seen. I think having bodies on the ground is quite nice. And like what I remember from testing, although I don't remember which iteration of the rules it was, the zombies were very, very, very nice. But yeah, so I think probably for Plague, it will make sense to print some of the big monsters. And of course, get a second box just for more bodies. Can't hurt for a horde faction.
So I got, if I'm remembering correctly, I completely agree with Clem. I focused on the hard plastics because I thought that there was great value in that. So I ordered, if I'm remembering correctly, 2 army boxes for the Forge Fathers, 2 army boxes for the Asterians, and 1 for the Nameless. I think I'm right in saying that. But then I also got the rights for all of the 3D printing stuff. And then, yes, I was going to ask Clem to print it for me. But yeah, I thought that would give me a very good base level to start the game. I've punched out all the tokens. That's a thing that's happened. But I haven't really read the rules yet. But very much looking forward to it. And maybe me and Clem can have a tiny scale weekend sometime soon. It'd be really exciting.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I want to do something locally. Like there are other players. I've already given away. Well, it's a deal, right? Like I gave my GCPS and my Vermin to local players who didn't get in on the Kickstarter. And the condition is whenever those hit retail, please buy one and give it back to me. But at least they can get started with assembling them and make an army right now.
That's a really nice thing to do as well.
But also, there are other people, obviously, who also got stuff directly on the Kickstarter. So I think we have a good amount of players locally, and it's always a question of who will actually assemble and paint something and actually play games. Because as we know, the buying is the easy part. But I really think there will be a healthy amount of players locally. And also, I took the sprues to the gaming store to hand over the boxes, and we were playing other stuff. And so the sprues passed around in a bunch of hands of people who were in the gaming store, and people were like, wow, they're really, really nice. Like, what's this again? That's really good quality. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for the game, and I think we will see a lot more of this on tables. So yeah, no, that's quite exciting.
Very good, buddy. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Along with lots of other things, unfortunately, but no, very much looking forward to it. But just finding the time. I already don't play Firefight very often. I already don't play Dead Zone very often. Those are great games. I think I am reaching the point now where, if Mantic do bring out a new game, obviously I'll be initially very excited, but I will have to have a little think, well, hang on a second, how could this possibly work with my time and everything? I mean, they're always fun hobby projects, and I think actually another thing is I do like collecting stuff as well. That's also a thing, right? Of course. Like to paint these things and have them on my shelf. But at this point, I have a lot of models, Clem.
I can relate. I mean, we already know Dreadball is coming, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is going to be a big test for my patience. And I don't think it's been announced yet, but we can't say. But someone very famous may or may not have written the rules for that, Gerry, right? So
Yeah. I'm positive people know, because I'm positive there was a public play test of it, but I've still not seen it officially confirmed anywhere, so maybe that person didn't get down for that public play test.
Interesting. Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
I don't know. But yeah, we know who it is, but you can't know at home yet, unless you do know, in which case we all know. Well done, us.
Yeah, we're back
I don't know, so dear listener, you can relate to me. I'm also completely ignorant, so that's fine.
We're back to that we mentioned at the top of the show. The dear listener loves it when there's in-jokes on the podcast that they're not a part of. Boy, does that make you feel welcome. Perfect. Let's move on, guys. So, we've got here in the notes, Chris went to Clash. I did go to Clash, and I had 6 unbelievably lovely games with 6 incredibly lovely people. And I played some real celebrities and had a brilliant time. And most importantly, I absolutely thrashed Fred. So that, but I claim I made my mistake again of winning my first game big, because I think I killed 1,600 points in the first game and lost 300. So it was quite the one-sided affair. But then the problem was that pushed me up the table, and then I was playing against people that actually knew what they were doing. But I had 6 fantastic games.
So
really good.
Once again, you can brag that you won your first game when the other player is actually a smart one and wants to go submarine and not be bothered for the next games. And you're like, yay, I got a win!
I'm like a submarine. I'm like flying too close to the sun, like Icarus. Like Icarus before me. I can feel the wax on my wings starting to melt, and we're not even lunchtime on day one. But in all seriousness, I had so much fun, and I mean, it's just brilliant to play with Fred anyway. He's a really good player, very technical. He, doesn't allow any of my nonsense, But then I just had 6, every single one of them was brilliant. I played against Andy Ransom, the Orange Legend or something, the Orange something.
2d6. The Orange Legend.
Really, really great guy, and absolutely deserved to beat me. Brought a fluffy Night Stalkers list. I didn't know there was such a thing, but there was, and he was just really fun to play with. I played against Lazy Pirate Painting, which was, Steve is just the nicest man, and that was just a fantastic experience. I really annoyed myself because, to be honest, I made a game losing mistake that I identified and then forgot, and then did the opposite later. Went, no, what have I just done? I was blocking Reforged Shrine from charging the flank of something, and after a combat, I backed up 1 inch, and there was just enough space. But I realised I rolled the dice, going, "Oh, sod it, I may as well move backwards." And then I realised, but I'd rolled the dice, so I didn't think it was fair to say, "Steve, can I pretend I didn't do that?" So I backed up 1 inch. Steve got a flank charge and just managed to hold me up where he needed to hold me up for long enough to squeak the win. But it was a brilliant game, and Steve is such a gentleman. We had such a lovely time. I mean, I feel bad for singling people out because I had such a brilliant game. I played against a lovely chap called Pa in my last game. That was brilliant fun. and twice in that game. So I won my first game and then lost. But one was incredibly close against a player who, I'll be honest, was much better than me. But if it finished round 6, it was a draw. So I think round 5 I was winning, and then suddenly my placoderms and my Trident King just died, and I wasn't expecting them to. That then put it to a draw. But of course, there was a round 7, and then I think my Gigas were in difficult terrain holding an objective, and if they survive that charge from something scary, I think it was the Guardian something for the Empire of Dust, the scary fighting ones, the big scary fighting ones, and Slave Guardians, that's it. If my Gigas Defense 6 survive a charge, it's still a draw, but they got charged and they died, and I lost. So, there was in there, I mean, I fully deserved to lose, in fairness. He was a much better player than me, but still, there were some even though I was losing games, they were all close. It was really, really, really fun games. And then my final game was against this lovely chap called Pa, who had his salamanders, and the turtle-themed salamanders, and beautiful army, really, really lovely man, and we just had a brilliant time. But it was he's got a combat army that hits on falls, and that's dicey at the best of times. But then once you're throwing in difficult terrain, ensnare, phalanx, it's tough for him. But I think twice in this game, I kept casting Bastion. Bastion was my best friend. And I think twice, actually, I cast Bastion on the Naiad and Snarer Horde. And if what that does is raise their route and waver by 1 and gives them a 6-inch bubble of doing that to other units, which is incredibly useful in my army. And I did that twice in the game on the Ensnarers. And I think if I hadn't have cast Bastion twice in the game on them, they would have been dead. And Bastion just saved them by 1. So and at that point he kind of I started to kind of grind the turtles down into a delicious bisque, but then the ensnarers finished the game on literally like 2 or 0 wounds. But so it was by the end of it, it was pretty brutal. Lots of turtles died. But that sort of doesn't tell the picture of just how close the game was, if that makes any sense. So at one point it was, for the first sort of, I'm going to say 3 or 4 turns, it could have gone either way, and I was just lucky that it just... So then you look at the board at the end and go, wow, this was a one-sided game, but it absolutely could have swung the other way. So yeah, thanks Pa for a lot of fun, and thanks everybody else. It was really, I mean, you couldn't hope for... I had 6 games of Kings of War, which you couldn't hope for a better game. You really couldn't. So it was delightful. And obviously seeing all the friends again, seeing Mark Zielinski and, Fred, and, Tom and Kevin from Ireland, Pod All-Star Peter, even though he doesn't quite have time at the moment to listen to the pod. He'll always be Pod All-Star Peter. And Chris didn't get his army finished. But apart from that, it was just a terrific time. It really was.
So, and what about the venue? Like, it was the same as last year, right?
Yes, it was. They opened up another room, but I didn't get to see the other room. But it was, the same venue. They had with dropouts, just under 200 people. I think it was literally something like 199. But it was, venue. I mean, it was so well organised, Clem. I mean, really exceptional. Everything was exceptional. The what's it called? The XL goodie bag came with like a really nice messenger, like fabric messenger bag with a nice logo on it. You can see them actually you can get one if you order certain bundles with the new releases, the new 4th edition bundles. But they're actually really nice quality bags, really brilliant. Came with your usual gubbins like nice dice and all the stuff you'd expect. Came with if you got the XL goodie bag, I got 2 Abyssal Dwarf ambush sets because I wasn't sure if you'd change your mind, Clem, about coming to Clash. So I thought, well, I'll get 2 XL goodie bags, and then if Clem does come, I'll give him he can have the second one if he wants it. So You did.
So kind.
But anyway, I kept both, so that's fine. Oh, and it also came with a Night Stalker Mind Screech plushie, which is fun.
That's cool.
It's a fun thing. And on a weekend full of highlights, including the Warlord Tour and accidentally seeing how nice the Conflict 47 models are. So the weekend full of absolute highlights. My highest of highlights was I got an outstanding hobby pin. And I think there were something like 20 or 30 in a room of 200 unbelievably well painted armies. The standard was just incredible. So to get something that only probably 10 or 15% of players got in terms of the hobby pin, that was secretly, Clem, that was actually my goal for the tournament. I didn't want to admit it.
I know.
Yeah.
You've made a display board and everything. I knew you were going for that as well.
Yeah.
And well played. Well done.
And Bob came over with my pin, and I was quite emotional, to be honest, because that meant a lot to me, to be honest. Because I'm not a very talented painter, or like all the rest of it, and I just worked quite hard on it, and that's. What was really nice is that's pretty much as good as I can paint right now, right? In 5 years, I might look at that and go, it needs work or something. I don't know. But right now, that's pretty much as nice as I can make something look. And I was really proud. For the first time ever going to Clash, I was actually proud of how my army looks. Like the first year we went, Clem, I had my old Trident Realm army. It was kind of like, I think I'm getting away with this. Like no one's noticed my army looks quite a bit crappier than everyone else's. And then the Northern Alliance army, it was like, they're not bad. Like, they're not great, but they're not bad. And this was the first year I was like, this is good, as good as I can do. So I was really happy. But kind of the bad news is I'm not going to Clash next year. Perhaps you would like to know why that might be.
Please tell me.
Oh, I'm glad you've asked, with almost no prompting. Yes, so Clem, you and I and a few other people are arranging an event in March. I think it's the weekend of the 7th and 8th of March 2026, called Antares Lives 2026, Clem, and it's a 2-day Antares event which will confusingly be at Mantic Games. I've mentioned it on the pod before. It's going to be great. Had a meeting this morning. Tickets are going to go on sale soon. It's a thing. It's happening, Clem. It's absolutely happening.
It is. I can say I've been convinced to jump in, and I got some models. I've painted some stuff, and bit of a digression here, but it's a good game. It's going to be a good time. And so you're going to the UK already in March, and so not again in September because once is enough. Is that right?
Exactly. It's money and time, and have a family and such. So there's only so many times you can spend €1,000 on a trip to a week trip to England that doesn't involve the family. So but we're going to, Clem, I think we're going to road trip it. So there's 4 of us coming in the car from Germany. So we're driving to Calais. We're going to get the ferry, and then we're driving up to Nottingham, and then I guess we're going to be in an Airbnb. And the one day is going to be our narrative campaign, which is going in the lore. And I've been speaking to the game designer, Tim, and he has taken my kind of chicken scratch, childlike crayon drawings, and he has turned them into some beautiful English prose. So I asked him to, I described where we are roughly in terms of this is a planet with these characteristics. And he's gone onto the map and he's come up with a real planet. Well, sorry, I say real planet. It's a planet that exists in the lore of Antares, and what we're doing and the events of our 3-game campaign are going to become the lore of Antares. So it's going to be an official thing. And it's very exciting. We're making very specific tables, which we hope are going to be beautiful. So the whole thing is we really, really want special looking tables, and it to be a very memorable event for people. We've got some really cool ideas, and it's actually taking form. So I think we're going to.
It is very exciting.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Thanks for backing me up on this. I think we're going to cap it at about 24 participants. One day is as I said, the narrative, and the other day is just free play. And if you want to just come for one of those 2 days, you're welcome to buy a one-day ticket. But obviously, we'd encourage everyone to come for the whole weekend and really just enjoy Antares the way it was intended.
It made me think of something, so you're saying you're not going to Clash next year, and then you talked about the narrative event, like it's a tiny, tiny thing that we're organizing, or you are organizing, and I'm just tagging along, as always. But I wonder if they will change the formula for Clash in a way, like make it more a narrative event, because I love going there, and it's always a great time, like good people, really nice armies, amazing organization and everything. And it's a tournament, right? Again, we know it's welcoming to newcomers and everything, but I wonder if they can really make it, just like you said, something that really impacts the lore, like a specific setting for the weekend. Now with the books, like the campaign books that will come out for Kings. I wonder if there's space for big lore-defining gaming events. There happen to be tournaments as well, but I think there's something exciting there.
It's a tremendous idea. It was before my time because it was second edition, but wasn't it the Edge of the Abyss campaign? Didn't they do something like that? But then I think the good guys won, and then Mantic went, "Oh, that's not what we want to do with the story." Okay, the bad guys won, everyone. So I think at some point they got it badly wrong, but there's something like that. I think that would be a terrific idea. You'd have to do it in such a way that the people that kind of poo-poo this stuff, and I think there are definitely loud people that go to Clash every year who would be against the idea. So I think you'd have to do it in such a way that
split the event. I don't care. Like leave it. You want to play the competitive event? Sign here. You want to play the narrative one? Sign there.
Oh, I'd be down narrative. Yeah,
and then it's in the same room or whatever, or two rooms on the same venue. I don't know what the venue is like, but then you offer the option of a kind of a slightly different gaming experience, maybe. I don't know. I'm not really in favor of opposing competitive and narrative play, because I think it's not the right approach to it, right? Like we've already discussed this. When you call your game, it's only a narrative game, it's because you suck at making balance rules. And not pointing fingers at GW, but I could. But I think there is really an opportunity to make very interesting narrative events, and just use the fact that there are 200 players that show up for a weekend. And so I'm sure there's some cool stuff that they could set up. Maybe not the first year, but the first we should do our Antares event, and then Mantic can learn from us, right? That's what we should be saying, completely modestly.
Genuinely, if you listen to MUP and you like our sort of style, if you can call it style, three very unstylish men calling it style. Yes, I think you will very much enjoy what we're pushing for this weekend, even if you've never played Antares before. And the buy-in is really low.
Yeah, like the starter bundles that Skytrax, like Warlord, Skytrax sells are pretty inexpensive. The rules are available online as PDFs, and we don't know half of them, right? Like we literally don't know the rules, and yet we organize an event.
Hey, Clem, I'll have you know, other people who are attending the event know the rules properly, right? Because Clem and I had a game last weekend, and Clem, you were like, wait, because I was shooting at Clem's weapon team, and you were like, why does my weapon have a different defense value to the team? And we were like, we don't know, but anyway, let's ignore that.
Let me just kill the crewman. It will disable your gun much faster. I was like, yeah, I know. That's what I don't like about your plan. Can I please put the hits on the high resistance guy? No, that's not how we've playing it so far.
Well, me and Caleb, we have a very much we're just having a good time. We don't stop and...
We might be wrong, but we're set in those ways, so please don't change it with the concept of rules or weird stuff like that.
Exactly. You talking about rules. We just go by feelings. But to be honest, Clem, one of the frustrations I have with Antares 2nd edition is it's split across 5 PDFs, and I think if you know to where you're looking for things, it's fine. But whenever there's a rules question, I don't even know which PDF to open to answer the question. And at that point, I'm not going to, we're just like, sod it. Let's just do it.
Just have a good time with miniatures
Exactly.
No, but I think that's why it's relevant to you, dear listener. Is yes, it's not a Mantic game, but it's still played with the MUP spirit. And so if you're free early March 26, just join us and we'll have a good time.
And confusingly, it is Mantic as well, Clem.
It is at Mantic HQ, so if you want to visit Mantic HQ, it's also a good opportunity for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
We're renting the space.
And we're keeping the ticket price as low as we possibly can because we don't want that to be stop people from coming. So yeah. So whether you bought some Antares models 10 years ago and you've forgotten all about them and you get them out of the attic and build them and paint them, this is the perfect excuse. Or if you want to give Skytrek / Warlord about £60 to £100, which is the amount you'd need to spend on one of their army bundles, then you'll have everything you need to play. Build it, paint it, come and join us. And it will be a really, really fun weekend. And I'm so looking forward to it, Clem. I mean, just the fact that the 4 of us are coming from Germany, and it's bittersweet as well.
It's going to be a trip.
Caleb's got to go back to the US, I think, in May next year. So it's kind of, I'm so I don't want to think about it actually. I'm so going to miss him because he's just been my gaming buddy for feels like forever now, and he's just the perfect gaming buddy you could have. I don't have a brother, but it feels a little bit like that. We just have a good time to get in each other's company, and we're always up for trying different games. So he's just my go-to guy. So yes, the fact it's his last chance as well to go to Nottingham before heading back to the US. So so it's going to be a thing, and then I love the fact, my friend Daniel visited, and I just go, hey, Daniel, do you want to come next year to Nottingham for a weekend? Why? Oh, because we're putting on this Antares event. Okay, all right. Sure. That's a thing that can happen. So, yeah.
He knows what's up. He's coming along for the trip with good friends and shitty food and a great time. That's what it is.
And, of course, Gerry, if you were to make it, Gerry, we would have inevitably a space in the Airbnb for you, my friend.
That's very kind. I may have to see what we're like come March, although I have a sneaking suspicion. Young Benjamin, my colleague over at Breasts of War, is getting married that week, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, people do that.
Hey.
Which may severely limit my available time off and whether or not I can go. Because I know it lands just before St. Patrick's Day. So, the little mix.
When we drive around Nottingham, I see an Irish cultural centre, so there's definitely St. Patrick's Day in Nottingham as well. But yeah, so I'm
Chris, did you make that argument, Chris? I've seen bad arguments in my life, but that one
you leave Ireland,
bad.
Yeah, for Chinese New Year,
really
leave China
bad.
and come to. Well, you know me, Clem. I throw a lot at the wall. Some sticks, some doesn't.
You try. Well, that one splashed pretty hard, I have to admit.
That was a wet thud.
I was buying it.
Yeah. Yes, we had so I had Thursday and Friday at work. I went on a training course run by an actor, and he very much enjoyed my particular brand of nonsense in the workplace. So there we go. Without going into any details, let's move on quickly. Good. Okay. I think we probably talked about Antares enough at that point, I think, sadly.
I think more than enough, yes. But what else do we have for Panithor? I think last time I played a game was a goodbye game because one of my good friends here in Berlin is moving abroad, or he actually moved abroad by that point. And that's the last game of third that I played. And we hope to do another third Kings of War 3rd edition event locally here in Berlin. to just say goodbye to the rules before we welcome the new edition. I think, Chris, you also have an event coming up in Frankfurt, right?
I was talking about Antari so much, I forgot to mention, yes. So, yes, we've got a goodbye to 3rd edition, what turns out to be, event in November. We're going to stick with 3rd edition for that, for obvious reasons, 3rd edition rules. So that's going to be in Quest Hub in Frankfurt. Information is out there, dear listener, but DM me if you need details. And we also have our very good friends, the Gentleman Dice Club. I think it's in November. So they are near Stuttgart, so a couple of hours from me, about 2.5 hours drive from me. They also have their first ambush event. But yeah, it's going to be our Frankfurt one. So I'm going to go along to that, dear listener. And support those guys because they always come here for our events. And at this point, I consider them good friends. They're really good guys, the three of them. So so that's exciting, and potentially they're going to put on a larger event next year. I think there's going to be a Germany GT. I think Wolfgang has got ideas in the pipe. There's going to be something happening soon. So Germany we're kind of rebounding from sort of probably 12 months ago. I'd say we were at quite a low point, Clem, and that's part of the reason why we started doing more. Because I really felt like things weren't happening or not as much as had been. So next year we'll have to think. I'm thinking probably for next year, let's say in Frankfurt, we probably run 3 ambush events and then 1 bigger event. I don't know whether that'll be 2,300 points, but maybe,
that sounds good. Let's see when what the rules and see how people are doing with it. Oh, that's exciting.
But I think you're right, Clem. The 4th has potential to bring a lot of new people in who particularly people that may have been sitting on the fence. Yeah, sorry, Jerry, I'll pass over to you and put myself on.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what kings you've played lately, or do you plan to say goodbye to 3rd edition in a specific way?
Well, I didn't expect it to be coming so thick and fast towards the end of the year, so I will definitely be arranging some goodbye games for 3rd with our little group. Recently, though, I've been working on champions sets because I fancy getting it on the table and giving it a whiz. One of the fellas I know has gone absolutely ham for champions. I think with his little group, they now have every champion box that's out there painted. They've been cycling through games that quickly. So I've been prepping for champions, but I think I'll definitely have to be saying goodbye to 3rd in some interesting way. Potentially, my halflings may have to get a run out since they are one of the 4 runners to get changed, and I'd be curious to see the difference between the last game of 3rd with the halflings and the first game of 4th with the halflings, just so I can compare and contrast more than anything else. I dare say there's a Nogbad and a couple of the other people I play with remotely will probably get a few last games in before it goes away. Give us a chance to roll some command dice. The best rule in 3rd edition that they ever introduced.
What a troll.
I'm not trolling at all. I really like command dice. And command dice will still be being played.
The number of people that come up to me and talk to me about command dice and our stance on command dice is interesting. Yes, it certainly gets clicks if you know what I mean. Yes.
I mean,
good.
if fourth edition doesn't do the command orders well enough, and I think their command orders are kind of champions meets command dice from the sounds of things. The commanders having their own little unique orders. But if they don't do the job well enough for my liking, I'm just going to add command dice back in. They're all narrative games. Nobody can stop me.
Your toys, your rules.
Exactly, guys. Yeah, and maybe we need to say that more on the podcast is don't get upset. Just do what you want to do. Some people say Antares is a dead game. I say it's not, and I win. We have an event happening.
How can they claim it a dead game when there it is being played at
exactly
the home of a company that does a completely different game but is quite friendly with the original company's producers?
Yes, absolutely. And I told the Warlord Tour, I told John Stoddard what we were doing, and he was very positive about it. And our good friend Ruben was talking to some Warlord people just this weekend, and everyone is very happy it's a thing that's happening. I think there was an awful lot of goodwill towards Antares, and I think they really wanted it to be a success. And then it lost a load of money. Behind it, I think that's what happened. But it deserves to be successful. But it's just what happens when you go against 40k. And funnily enough, actually, I was watching. Weirdly enough, I was painting and watching YouTube, and I did. It went on to Play Next, and I didn't change it. And it was a guy talking about Warhammer. I can't remember what the context was. But I think it was. It was about blowing up the old world and going to Age of Sigmar. And it was a very good YouTube channel. I can't remember the name of it or anything. But he was talking about new armies. And he said, what he was saying really was, we think we want something new, but really we want an old idea tweaked, right? And when he said, we think we want something new, but no, we don't, he flashed up on the screen a picture of an Saurian, which is a faction in Antares, a box set of theirs, which is the weird kind of, sort of spider aliens mixed with humans kind of thing. And it was just very, very interesting. He picked that as an example where Antares had some bold ideas that probably people told Warlord they wanted, and then they went, actually, no, I don't want that. Which is a shame because it's awesome. Good. Okay.
Just on that topic, it was very funny because I mentioned I brought some Epic Warpath sprues to the local gaming store the other day to hand over boxes, and just by accident, it happened to be the day that people playing Net Epic were also there, because I know some of them, and some of the people who got the sprues are playing Net Epic. And so they looked at the sprues and were, oh, that's quite nice. And then I heard, quite later on in the evening, people saying, yeah, but, if there are no Terminators or whatever, Space Marines and Tyranids, it doesn't really strike my fancy. Like, I just can't really project myself. Like, at that point, I can only ever do GW. I was like, oh, too bad for you. I mean, what can you say to that point, right? And I think you're right. People might say, oh, we want something new, we want change. But then people who are basically just in there for nostalgia, they're pretty hard to sway.
There are some debates about, religion. Does God exist? It's been going on since the beginning of time. And if someone who believes in God gets to the point where they don't have any more arguments, they just go, I have faith, and you can't argue with that. Why does God exist? Because I believe He exists. You can't, if it doesn't have Terminators in, I'm not going to play it. There's nothing you can do to that, and I think that's partly why, Clem, when we're talking about getting new players into Mantic games, the temptation is to think that 40k is would be right for it. It's actually not. We assume it would be. No, we don't assume the mentality of the people in it. So yes, it's a shame. It's a shame, Clem. But bizarrely, the epic scale GW players are probably not going to be a ripe source of players for Mantic epic scale, which is depressing. But it's such is the world.
That's right. I don't think there's a huge amount of them anyway.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I wanted to play Tyranids, and there aren't any.
I'd be interested if there were tiny Tyranids, actually. That sounds great. Yeah. Mm.
Well, you have to 3D print them if you want to.
It's Horus Heresy times, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. People wanted Epic back, and then GW came out with Horus Heresy instead. And going, well, where are all the other races? No, you're not getting them. Oh, okay. Well,
Speaking of which, actually, Caleb's friend was in Quest Hub, and he had a Horus Heresy. It was 28mm scale. He just bought a tank from the shop, and it's a big tank, and it was, I can't remember how much it was now, but it was a startling amount of money, like quite shocking. It was. I think it was over €200 for a single tank. It's a big tank. It looks like a nice kit. My goodness, that's a lot of money for a tank, a plastic tank.
Not surprised.
Anyway, let's move on to listener questions, everyone. So I think some of these we can get through them fairly quickly. So Tom Freeman, who I saw at Clash of Kings, and he's delightful in person as he is online. And yes, Tom, please make more MUP content for us. You're very talented and a very special person. So, Tom says, what is your favourite game? Board game, RPG, miniatures game, not made by Mantic, and why? Gerry, let's start with you, my friend.
Oh, it's going to be a long episode. So, we'll start with RPG. There is only one. No book is higher on my shelves than this book. In a very similar way to the Quran, no book can be higher than that. It is Call of Cthulhu. It is an RPG that has remained mostly unmolested for the better part of 4 decades, until they did 7th edition and added stupid dice in. But otherwise, it is a sublime and fantastic look into the psyche of people. Because it's when you get a good group together, and like most things in life, it does require a good group, you can really start to play with them over time and exploit them, and to get to the point where they're no longer willing to even do something as simple as open a door, check a drawer, or read a book, without the terrifying concern of what they might find in there, and that psychological terror and horror.
In a Lovecraft story that never goes well. No way.
Don't read it. Don't even look at the pictures. I mean, that's a rookie mistake. And you do get people who come from other RPGs of a more dungeon crawlery style, so your likes of Dungeons and Dragons and that sort of thing. And the first character they put together generally has a ton of combat capabilities, and then after they've finished being scraped off the floor, they discover this is not a game for min-maxing combat stats. It will not help you. If you've reached for a gun as your first resort, then it is your last resort and you've already lost. So I just love Call of Cthulhu. It actually forces people to role play. Call of Cthulhu D20, shit, never played that. Terrible. It's an abomination. Get thee away from me, Satan. But the original COC, the cock, it's amazing. Love it to bits. Miniatures game, the multi-award winning Moonstone. I love it from the bottom of its little tippy toes to the top of its little hats. The miniatures are absolutely adorable, fantastic, wonderful. The sculpts are superb. It is a kitsch, cartoonesque, whimsical fantasy game is how they describe it themselves. You need a very small amount of figures, but it kind of plays like Magic the Gathering in that when you're playing, you bring a sideboard of 8 or 10 or whatever it happens to be. But then your games are generally 6 figures a side. You will never have more than 12 miniatures on the table. So a 1v1, 6 aside. A 3-player game will then be 4 per side, and a 4-player game will be 3. So it's very easy. There are no points. You pick based on faction. Some models are multi-faction because it's so narrative driven. So you may get somebody who happens to be a old noble, so they're part of the Dominion, but they also happen to be the descendant of some sort of terrible undead thing, so they can also drop into the Shades faction. So you've got these multi-faction characters. There is no chaff in the game. Everybody is a named character with a bit of backstory and a signature move that defines how they play. And then the core mechanics are probably some of the best mechanics I've ever seen in my life. There's no dice. It's all card decks. And you've got a separate card deck for arcane actions, which is magic and shooting, and then one for your melee, so which is swashbuckling. And it's very much Daffy Duck, parry, thrust, riposte, with his buck and a quarterstaff. You are dealt a hand of cards. You pick the attack or defensive move that you think will get past your opponent's defenses, and then you both reveal them at the same time. And you're drawing from the same deck as well. So the attacker goes first. If they're really good at melee, out of that 18 card deck, they might be able to draw 5, or they can buy maybe a 6th. So they're taking a third of the deck away, and then you're taking your melee to defend against it. It means you've got the possibility of having more options in your hand, but also having more of the same card. And if you play a card and it gets through your opponent and you've got duplicates, then they become critical hits. So just everything from the world to the miniatures to the gameplay mechanics. If people have not played the multi-award-winning Moonstone, #Moam. You can download all of the cards for free, all of the rules for free, and paper standee versions of every miniature from the game for free. All you need is to get 7d4, which are used as objective markers, and you can play that entire game without having to do anything more than print off some paper.
And let's
I
be
would
honest,
suggest people do.
no one is going to be using proxy models for that game because the models are just so gorgeous.
Oh, so good. So very good. And then finally, board game, not Mantic. That's cheeky because I don't own many board games. Nearly all of them are Mantic. I would have to say I have Damnation, the Gothic game, where it's a revamped version of something that was, I think, like 1980s. And you are the resurrected soul of somebody damned to hell. You are in Dracula's castle in hell. You are attempting to get through to Dawn without being killed while avoiding the vampire and trying to kill / nobble the other lost souls that are your competitors in there. And it's got a beautiful aesthetic. The illustrations are stunning. And the game is so much fun. You can play up to about 8 people, and time ticks faster as more people get killed. And when you get killed, you get the chance to interfere with the game as a ghost or just piss off the other surviving souls. So there's no sort of sitting on the sideline and sitting twiddling your thumbs or going off for a drink while everybody else has fun. You just spend your time going, how am I going to know? Oh, you killed me, did you? Right. Well, I'm going to make sure my haunted soul will absolutely destroy you for the rest of this game. Ah, ha, ha, ha. You're my bitch now. So those would be my 3.
That sounds fun. What about you, Chris?
Oh, yes. Well, obviously I've got to say Antares. I very much like Antares. I think for other games, I don't often play board games, but I think if I think about the games I've played over the years, the Alien deck building game, I think it was by Upper Deck Games, Alien Legendary Encounters, Alien something. Mm-hmm. I think you also have it, Clem. And I loved that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was absolutely amazing. So, definitely that. And then board games. Yeah, I haven't played one in such a long time. Mechs vs. Minions was really fun. I think from Riot Games, that was really fun. It was kind of like you've got a little mech, and then you basically, with cards, you give it a little program, and it's you play it out and see what happened. Oh, and another one actually was that was really fun was called Space Alert, where you're the crew of a spaceship, and you basically listen to an audio file or a CD. It came with a CD. You listen to a CD, and certain events happen, and you've all got different roles. So one of you is the captain, one of you loads the torpedoes, etc. And stuff happens, and you have a short period of about 30 seconds, a minute or something. I can't quite remember. But basically, you all try and hectically do stuff. You have to raise the shields, fire torpedoes, but you can't fire them unless someone's loaded one. So you have this incredibly hectic thing where, you get attacked by aliens, they board the ship, or there's a meteor storm or whatever, and you've got to try and overcome it. And then after sort of 2 minutes or 30 seconds or whatever, you stop it and then basically work out what happened. And it's always hilarious because it's always like, okay, and then Chris, you try to fire the torpedo, but Steve or whoever, I don't know, Clem, didn't load the torpedo, so nothing happened. And then you thought you were moving the ship over that way, but really what was happening was, it's kind of like that. So it was a very stressful game, but it was incredibly fun to play with the right group of people. I think we've said that a lot, but you couldn't do it with a beer, for example, because actually you really have to have your wits about you. And even if you have your wits about you, things are a disaster. So, it's not the kind of game, it's not like a beer and pretzels game. It's a game that requires, attention. But it was so rewarding when you played it with a group of friends who were all into it. It was fantastic.
That also sounds pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't play that many board games or RPGs, so I don't have that many references to share. I'll stick to miniature games, and I've mentioned it a few times, but really for me, the original Necromunda and the campaign part of it was really it's up there in my reference system. Really, because there was still the enjoyable part about the very physicality of it. Like it's really miniature games. There's no question about it. But then you also had to, play around with your gang and play the scenario and, just watch your guys evolve throughout the campaign. And, that was really lovely. And, I don't think I've seen another game do that as well, at least for me since then. Vanguard did a decent job at it. But it was maybe a bit more balanced and less crazy because Necromunda Old School, like some really insane stuff could happen, which in a way gives it, I don't know, more flavor or like better memories 20 years later, maybe. But yeah, no, that's my main reference. And another one that I would just give a mention now that I like, I haven't played it. A lot of it, but every time I play it, I love it. It's a Blitzball. So it's the cheap, small version of Blood Bowl from GW. And what I like about it is it's a very simple game. Like it's literally just 2 sprues, one for each team. A bit of cardboard, and I don't even remember if there are dice. Yes, there must be dice one way or another in it. And and it's pretty cheap, and it's already a nice, interesting game. It's not like the most amazing game ever, but I think it's a very good introduction product into tabletop gaming because it gives you miniatures, and the first dose is always free or cheap, and I really enjoy this part for it because tabletop miniatures we desperately need these type of games where newcomers can just grab a box and get a taste for it, and then realize, oh, maybe I really like this, and then I want to investigate a bit further. So yeah, that's my take on it. Should we go to the next question?
Wiki Dave. So specifically for Jerry, Clem, don't answer. You want to answer the question? Put yourself on mute. From an overall perspective of the hobby, what can Mantic do in 4th edition to stand out from the rest?
Yeah, I seen this question, and I was hoping you would miss it out. It's a really difficult one to answer because there are so many companies have released things recently, and people expect a 2-player starter set. They expect free online rules, lists, list building, all of that. They expect that to be there. To make it stand out from Warlord and Perry's and GW and whoever else, they would really need to do something dramatically different. So different, in fact, that I can't actually give you I can't look at it and go, oh, they should do this, because then in my head I'm going, well, why has somebody else not done that first? It would have to be something really left field. So, for example, I recently did the Conflict 47 theme week for the Breast of War, and that had designer interviews, unboxings, gameplay, some painting tutorials, that sort of thing. But that's fairly standard. That's something that you see all the time. So I don't think I can answer that insofar as, because it's my job, the things I think of are things that have now become ubiquitous. Let's put it like that. They're now something that every company does on a release. So it might require somebody who doesn't do these sort of things to go, oh, nobody does this, they should do this.
An outsider kind of thing. So let's slightly... Okay, I totally get what you're saying, Jerry. Other than doing something crazy like set off fireworks in the house or something...
I don't even think it's that. I mean, for example, everybody loves AI these days for some god unknown reason. So maybe having AI on the companion app that you can ask your question. If you don't know how something works, book flipping or scrolling or search and find, and then go, I've got a question about charges, and then you search charge 15, charges mentioned throughout this book that's 200 pages long, and you go to the first one, it's not there, you go to the second one, it's not, and you have to go through each of those 15 examples of charge that your find has come up with. Going to an AI and going, I don't know how charging works across hindering terrain. How's that work? So maybe from an accessibility point of view, it's a new edition. People are all going to be making mistakes, and people will need to learn it from scratch. If they had something like that, I don't know how possible that is. Obviously, AI is mostly terrible. But even then, I have a sneaking suspicion Corvus Belli have done something similar as a AI in-world person that you can talk to about Infinity. So you can go to their website and ask this AI questions about rules and list building and stuff, and it will dredge up the answers and give it to you. So even that's not new.
Jerry, let me reimagine the question slightly and open it up to both of you. So instead of talking about, wacky, wonderful things that they could do that no one else has thought of, so let's just change it to simply, from everything you've seen from 4th edition, do you think Mantic are going to tempt new players into Kings of War?
Yes. And I'll broaden it slightly insofar as, have they made it as accessible as possible for people to move from 3rd to 4th? So if people haven't seen, Mantic have even included things like base adaptation kits to change your 25mm by 50mm mounted hero onto the new 50x50 standard. So there are things like this. There's a whole raft of new movement trays, not even movement trays, multi-bases. So they have everything there. I think if they can I know they were looking for, they've done more videos and bits and pieces for the launch this time than they did for 3rd. So you've had the blogs, which they've had before, but then they've had the little funny videos where you trying to coax people in that way. And sometimes that viral style of things helps. I don't know if Mantic have got an official Discord. In fact, I'm going to say they don't. It's still the unofficial Discord. So that side of things is probably key. Is there somewhere that people can go to ask questions that could be answered in the official capacity? Because at the moment it is, you ask a question to Mantic's Facebook group, or you hope to get an answer if you post a comment on the Kings of War forum or something like that, and you're not sure when those answers are going to come in because they're not official locations. So maybe that's the only thing I could think of, is to have a bigger social presence where people have a faster turnaround time or can reach out and talk to, members of the rules committee if they're given admin or mod capability on an official Discord. Just simply make themselves more accessible in that respect, because obviously some of the big companies have moderate accessibility. Some of the GW doesn't bother with that at all. They don't want to open themselves up, I think, long term to any issues. But I think if they want to really get people involved, because I don't know if there's much of a hobby section in that book about how you do painting and stuff. And obviously they don't have a painting studio on site like some of the other companies do. But being able to have the accessibility to go, oh, how do you make hills? Or I need to get X, Y, or Z. And if you ask any of those questions on Facebook or whatever, you'll get 15 people telling you to 3D print it. But if you don't have a 3D printer and you've no intention of getting it, then having somebody going, oh, well, here's a book that's just come out from Ammo that tells you about making terrain, or here's a blog that you can go to, or I've linked a YouTube video. That social aspect and just getting more people to talk is probably key. Because yes, we know the Kings of War forum exists, except it's not the Kings of War forum, it's the KOWforum.com. So, finding unofficial versions like MUP or whatever it happens to be, you're really at the whim of Google at that point, or Bing. So being able to go to Mantic and go, that's your official Discord, I can go in there and ask questions, smashing. I think that's probably going to be the height of it.
That's a very good point. I think, just to go a bit to the question, the original question, in general, I think Mantic shouldn't try to change entirely what it's doing, and What I mean by that is they have, in my opinion, and I think you guys will agree, definite advantages over other games and other game companies. Like part of their identity and what make us love them is clearly a strength. They also have definite weaknesses, and so to stand out from the rest, I think they should, keep playing to their strengths and try to improve on their weaknesses. It's kind of a cliche thing to say, but I really believe that's a strong thing for them to do in the future and keep growing and keep bringing in new people. Because it sounds stupid, but some dumb small mistakes or just not having building instructions with your models. Well, maybe we're used to it by now, but I'm sure it's a repellent for newcomers, or as you said, Gerry, right? If you don't have instructions for some stuff that seems basic, well, people who just don't know about it, well, they'll just be stuck and frustrated and just move on. Or if you keep screwing up QA, well, the first time you do this, you might already lose someone, right? So, I don't know. On the other hand, we all know that they truly listen to their customers and they really are here to make good games. And sadly, I think that's not necessarily the case for all the companies, right? Not putting fingers at GW because we said GW bashing is bad, but here we are. And I think that's an actual strength. It sounds crazy to say it, but I think it's true. And just keep doing what they do well and do more of it.
Yeah, sorry, Clem. I just wanted to, when you mentioned build instructions, that new Conflict 47 two-player starter box is just so good, and it comes, of course, with build instructions for everything. It's just even comes with a little bag, so you've got. You really have everything you need. It's a very, very good box. So the competition are getting better all the time, and Mantic are going to have to keep getting better. I think one of the things I don't like about Mantic over the years has been, the last few years, on the one hand, Mantic want to be taken seriously as one of the big professional company, but then the moment something goes wrong, like they forget to put something in a box or something, then they go for the old, oh yeah, but we're just a small company. And I'm sorry, you can't do. I get sick of them trying to do those two things at the same time, right? Either they're the plucky underdogs who don't have the resources, and we have to make a load of excuses for them, or they are a professional company that know what they're doing, and they're moving forward in one of the big boys. And it does kind of irk me a little bit that sometimes I get the feeling that different people at Mantic are trying to pull on those what I think are opposite lines at the same time. Anyway, yes, let's move on. So, next question, guys. I think you did a good job with that. I hope WikiDave also feels the same. So, JP, cytoplasm, I'm going to say. Do people have any plans for 4th edition? New armies to start, something to revisit. I'm thinking of rebasing my Reforged Orcs to give them a spruce up and adding to them depending on what happens to them with a new edition. I think we've kind of covered this already, to be honest, guys. I love the idea of going back over old armies that didn't get enough love first time, Clem. So your Salamanders falls into that pot. So that'd be really good. Yes, I'm going to be doing Trump Realm and the Zerkali. I'm saying that wrong. The Empire thingy. I forgot what it's called. It's been a long recording session.
Zerkali, yeah.
Zerkali, thank you. So I think, I'll be honest, guys, I think we've covered this earlier in the pod, so let's move on. Screaming Adabs, how do you feel about the print-on-demand service, especially with those like Chris in Europe? I feel it could be great, but needs strong international support. Without it, I think folk will really miss out, especially with more STLs only released planned. Maybe we can just fairly quickly touch on that one, guys. What do you think?
Well, so I haven't heard the details about the print-on-demand service. I think I've heard that some of the reinforcements for Epic Warpath that are not cast resin, they're 3D printed, and that Mantic actually bought a printer farm in-house and was starting to do this. In a way, I think it could be interesting because vertical integration, like having the knowledge in-house to do critical new technology, critical stuff, I think is good because you, in my opinion, you get a better understanding of the big picture and so on and so forth. On the other hand, to be completely honest, I have the impression sometimes that Mantic is just struggling to keep up with everything they're doing, including basic support functions like, answering the emails and stuff like this. And so adding one more thing in-house, I hope it's not just spreading thin, like even thinner than they already are now, and that it actually is a strategic investment and that they develop that further. Because the alternative would have been just work with third-party printing farms, right? Like when the Vault started, it just limited the merchant licenses to stores, like brick-and-mortar stores. And I understand the intent there, but I'm not sure it really worked because not so many stores actually have printing capabilities. And I think they were a bit below in what they could have done on the merchant side for people who don't have a resin printer or 3D printer at all, which, believe it or not, in 2025 is still, I guess, the vast majority of tabletop gamers. And so, yeah, I think interesting stuff for them to do here. Let's wait and see how they actually do it.
Yeah, nicely answered. Perfect. Gerry, unless you've got something to add to that, I think we can move on to the next one. I'll just give you a second.
I'm not sure who is planning on doing it. I know they are printing some stuff out themselves. I don't have and never will have a 3D printer, so I need it to be accessible, however they do it. But they already have My Mini Factory for selling STLs, and My Mini Factory has Only Games as its printing hub, doesn't it? So presumably the Only Games could be doing it at a greater extent than Mantic can. So I don't know if it's only going to be Mantic 3D printing their own stuff, or if they'll have a few of these companies that can do it for them. I don't know how to search them. I've never looked near them. But yeah, I think long term it needs to be accessible if they're going to go for STL only, because I'll never be printing those. So if I can't buy them, they won't go in my army.
Yep, fair enough, buddy. Perfect. Okay, so Jacob P. Hey, Jacob. Would you want to see an Armada 2nd edition, or do you think the game is complete? I mean, to be honest, in my life, I've probably played 5 games of Armada. It's been interesting locally, actually. I've noticed people are taking up Armada now, so that's great news, and I probably will play a little bit more of Armada. The game's great, but I honestly haven't played enough of it to say whether it needs a 2nd edition or not. I mean, normally when you think of a 2nd edition, it's normally with significant changes, and I don't feel like I know the game well enough, to be quite honest with you, to say, every time I've played it, I've had a brilliant time and I've had a really, just great fun. But yeah, guys, can either of you answer that better than my inadequate answer?
I'm on a similar level, to be honest. I think the interesting question would be, is there a 2nd edition or something that would be in the 2nd edition that would make me play Armada more? And I don't think there is. And by that, I mean, I don't think the reason I don't play Armada more is because I think it's not a good game. It's just there's not enough time for all of the universes and
Totally right.
And as we say. And so I remember one thing is there's a lot of tokens for Armada. So sometimes, the ship status is a bit hard to track. Maybe, but I think it mostly comes from I'm a beginner with the system, and I just don't really have full hang of how it works. But otherwise, I'm also fully unqualified to answer that question.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch Armada. Doesn't need a 2nd edition. It would be gilding the lily. They may need to rebalance some of the ships or the like, but the game is solid, which is why they licensed it from Warlord Games. The other thing is, if they do a 2nd edition, I don't know if they'd be allowed to still use the Black Seas core mechanics in there. If they're releasing a 2nd edition, they would have to be doing it because the game requires something, and it doesn't. So I think just leave it well enough alone. Let it be a complete game that people can just get into and play without messing around.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, and they've brought out a couple of supplement books, haven't they? Caesar Flame and etc. So it's they could just do that, couldn't they? If they want to introduce new things, doesn't necessarily need a new edition to do that. Great, but it is, as Clem said, it's a terrific game. It's just the problem we have is time, and a second edition wouldn't magically buy us more time. Super. Okay, so last question, Volek. Hello, who I believe this is Wolfgang in Germany. Hey, Wolfgang.
It is.
Yeah. In the career section of the Mantic page, there is no longer a hobby herald listed. Do you know something about that? Have they found one finally? Yeah, I can answer that. The answer is yes, and also yes. It's very exciting. Personally, I'm very excited about this, but Mantic haven't announced it officially, and I cannot say for the time being, which is a shame because I desperately want to talk about it, and I'm not allowed to.
And no, it's not Chris going to work for Mantic. It's going to work for Skytrex and Sending Enters, not Mantic Games.
That would be excellent. No, I'm not. No. It's sadly, Clem. I don't think that would pay the mortgage. Sadly, so it's got to hobby is going to stay the hobby. But no, it's not, certainly not me. Mantic have certainly got a very good person, and I'm really excited to talk about it. And we will when we can. To be honest. Perfect. So that was the last question we have. Thank you, everyone, for sending in questions. If you want.
So wait, Chris, you forgot something. At no point today you said we're pressed for time.
We're pressed for time, dear listener. We've gone past pressed for time. We're yes, absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt.
Listener. No worries, Clem. No. The show that was a little bit too professional. So well done for just throwing some cold water on there. Yeah, dear listener, thanks for sending in your questions. If you want to send questions in for next month, you can send them to manticuniversepodcast@gmail.com, or you can message our Discord or Facebook groups, as these people have done so. Super, guys. Well, that was a lot of fun. Anything to touch on before we wrap up the show? Should we pick a panel or topic for next month so that we are committed? The dear listeners heard.
Ooh.
We have a. Well, let's do. I tell you what. If the information's out there, should we do the Zakali Empire?
Well, will there be enough stuff out there by then? Is the big question. If so, yes, that's a good one. Otherwise, for me, it's all decided already. It's the Epic Warpath stuff, like the book, the anthology of short stories. It's on my bedside table, and that's what I'm reading these days. And so by next monthly, I'll definitely have finished it, and we can talk about it, in an extended
Epic
context.
Warpath's the way to go, Clem, because we may be recording the next one before the release of 4th, which means there's very little out there about the Zakali already.
There we go. Okay, well, there we go. We've got the next 2 months planned out then. Perfect. So, Clem, what are we reading? Are we reading the Epic Warpath rulebook, the lore and that, or are you reading? Is it First Strike? You've got a copy of the book.
Well, we can split the work. I haven't checked the lore in the rulebook yet. No, but as part of your pledge, you should have received a book, an anthology of novels in the Warpath universe, selected specifically for Epic. Or was it only on larger pledges? I'm not sure. But I got a book. And maybe you should double check in your box, and you should have gotten one as well.
I don't remember seeing it, but I'll double check the box. I would hope so, Clem. I spent a lot of money on that Kickstarter.
Yeah, I mean, and if you don't have the book, then it's great. I can tell you guys all about it in the next, Penny lore doesn't really fit, but, Warpath lore episode. And sounds like a plan to me.
Clem, it's our podcast. Panel will fit. If we want it to fit, it'll fit. Gerry!
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure we all got it, and it's an anthology. First Strike is a full novel. So if you wanted to, you could do the rulebook. I could do First Strike, and then Clem could do the anthology series. That's
also a good idea.
Okay, well, actually, this is a great idea because people are always very sad when we have so little Warpath content. So this is at least something, this is at least something to throw them. Very good. Okay, I like that idea. Let's do that. So I'm reading the rule book as far as I understand. That's my commitment to this. Perfect.
Yes.
I always love it when Clem explains things to us. I very much enjoy that. Dear listener, thank you so much for listening to our nonsense for nearly 3 hours. Appreciate it as always. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. And as we always say, dear listener, if you get this far, you're the real fans. We love you the most. You're the special ones. We always thought you were special. So in a good way. Perfect. On that slightly creepy note, Gerry, do you want to take us out?
Yes. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you again soon. And remember, Mantic Universe Podcast. So much universe, so little time.